Chapter 1255. Duel? Hearing this familiar yet strange word, Dustless couldn't help but stare blankly for a moment. After roaming the various dimensions for so many years, Dustless had always stood at the peak of the heavens in every world. It wasn't that there were no challengers, but most of them were extremely powerful. A woman like xianxia was extremely rare, perhaps even non-existent. There are always people who don't know when to stop. Dustless, who had just laid down, stood up again and stared at xianxia for a while with a cunning glint in his eyes. "You want a duel?" "Sure, but I don't like doing meaningless things. If you want to duel with me, at least bring out some sort of prize." Staring at xianxia's curvaceous body, Dustless pursed his lips, not hiding the lust in his eyes. Even though xianxia was pregnant and getting on in age, Dustless couldn't see any traces of aging in her perfect body. Everything seemed to have been sculpted by the heavens. Dustless really couldn't find any flaws. "Prize? What's that?" Xianxia's beautiful eyes flashed with doubt as she asked in confusion. Even so, she was already a wife and wasn't completely inexperienced. She naturally understood Dustless's undisguised gaze. "You're quite bold. Don't you know who I am?" Xianxia clenched her fists, the veins on her jade-white forehead pulsing. "It's best if you understand, but it doesn't matter if you don't agree. Otherwise I won't duel with you. You don't even have a gift to move me. Do you think there's a need for a boring duel? And the result is even more boring. It's a one-sided duel." Wuxian put on an appearance of a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water. It looked like he was going to drill into the quilt again. "This guy..." Xianxia clenched her teeth, her expression turning uglier and uglier. Dustless's last few words, "one-sided duel," hurt her dignity. No matter what, she was still the wife of the Demon King, famous throughout the world. Now, she was being looked down upon by a brat who hadn't even grown out his hair yet. Even if she wanted to laugh it off and tell herself not to get angry with a child, she was still furious at Dustless. "If you can defeat me, I'll fulfill all your conditions." Xianxia, who was in a hurry to teach Dustless a lesson, said. Dustless was Riaz's kin, and she could beat him half to death to teach him an unforgettable lesson. Otherwise, if he dared to take advantage of her today, he might ride on her husband's head in the future. "That's what I'm waiting for." The smile on Wu Chen's face was even wider. Combined with his handsome face, it made people's hair stand on end. Even Xianxia furrowed her brows. She suddenly felt an unprecedented sense of uneasiness. She even had the misconception that Dustless was only wearing human skin. If he were to take off that disguise, he would become a peerless demon king through and through. "Looks like I've been working too hard recently. How could I have such a funny illusion? He's just a brat who hasn't grown up yet. There's no need to be nervous. The one who should be afraid is this brat, not me." Xianxia consoled herself. Even so, she still couldn't let it go. The intense pressure that lingered in her heart was definitely not unfounded. It was an unfathomable power that was looking down on her, as if it could crush her with a single thought. "Let's go somewhere else. This place isn't suitable for a duel." Suppressing the uneasiness in her heart, Xianxia returned to her usual cold demeanor. "There's no need to leave. Let's settle it here." Dustless shook his head and refused. He really didn't have the time to go out and duel in the middle of the night. It would be better for him to have a quiet sleep. "You're not going? So you're giving up?" Xianxia's beautiful eyes narrowed. She immediately understood Dustless's intentions and said coldly, "It would have been fine if you were willing to admit defeat, but it's too late now. You've angered me. Even if you admit defeat, you'll have to pay a heavy price." "Is that so? Then you really are a narrow-minded woman. But you're wrong this time. I won't admit defeat and I won't lower my head to a woman." Dustless smiled at Xianxia's indifferent tone and retorted coldly, "I don't want to go somewhere else because there's no need to." Dustless's eyes began to change. 3 jade carvings appeared in his pitch-black eye sockets. They slowly rotated and devoured Xianxia's mind. "What do you mean?" Xianxia instinctively retreated. Even when she regained her senses, she didn't know why she retreated. "You still don't understand? Because there's no need to." The 3 Tomo Sharingan began to rotate at an even faster speed. Xianxia's restlessness became even more intense as a mysterious force invaded her mind. "You'll be eliminated instantly, so there's no need to go through so much trouble." Xianxia's mind buzzed as soon as he said that. She completely lost consciousness and fell to the ground. She could only barely retain her consciousness as she looked helplessly at the world in front of her. She felt a warm and broad body hugging her. The eye power of the 3 Tomo Sharingan can easily defeat Xianxia without the slightest effort. "Miss Xianxia, as I've said, you're out of the game in an instant. So, Please keep your word and agree to all my conditions. I'm very tired right now and I want to sleep, so my request is simple. Sleep with me immediately. Remember, like Riaz, I like to sleep naked, and the person who sleeps with me must not wear clothes either. Chapter 1256. Gulifia was dumbfounded. Her beautiful eyes were shrouded in a layer of shadow, losing their luster. Dustless's fiery eyes almost melted her, especially when she was locked in Dustless's arms, unable to move. That masculine scent made her both embarrassed and angry. Let me go. I'm the wife of Demon King Sizax and also Riaz's. However, before Gulifia could finish her sentence, Dustless impatiently covered her mouth with his hand. Tsk. This taste is not bad. Married women are sometimes more perfect and emotional. After a while, Dustless retracted his mouth and enjoyed it. Savoring the lingering fragrance in his mouth, the light in his eyes became even brighter. His eyes that seemed to want to devour her made Gulifia's soul tremble. She looked at Dustless in fear. She never thought that this young man who looked like he was in his teens would be so terrifying. His strength was so strong and his personality was so strange. Someone like the Demon King would never do something so vulgar. Let me go. Aren't you afraid of the Demon King's revenge? Gulifia warned, the meatball in front of her swaying. Clearly she was still afraid of Dustless. Demon King? What the hell is that? Ignoring Gulifia's words, Dustless's eyes seemed to have the ability to see through everything. Gulifia's body was clearly exposed under Dustless's eyes. You are to my liking. Be my wife. Oh no, I hate your noble queen-like personality. So be my slave. Dustless changed his words with a smile. His expression looked frivolous, but his eyes never changed from staring at Gulifia. You're not the high and mighty Demon King's wife? So what? I'll make you the lowliest slave and crush your confidence. Are you crazy? Gulifia was shocked. Her expression changed drastically. She could already feel Dustless's restless hands, and she began to struggle with all her strength. Kneel. With a groan, Dustless coldly ordered and directly threw Gulifia out. Although he liked Gulifia, he wasn't interested in her who always put on a sour face. He needed to change her personality. She could change with others but not with Dustless. In front of others she is the saintess that everyone admires. In private she is the one who charms the common people. Hee. Dustless felt a burst of excitement as he thought of this. Dream on. I won't. Boom boom boom. A majestic aura swept out and Gulifia, who was just about to stand up, was once again suppressed. She was forced to the ground by the majestic energy fluctuations in an instant, her knees touching the ground as large beads of cold sweat poured down like a rainstorm. Ka. Gulifia's clothes were torn to shreds by the brutal force, and her private parts were exposed to Dustless's gaze. Miss Gulifia, do you still have the dignity of the Demon King's wife? Squatting down, Dustless looked down at Gulifia, who was crawling on the ground, and said with a wicked smile. His sneaky eyes were frightening. Chapter 1257. Gulifia's expression darkened as she looked at Dustless's frivolous smile. There was no doubt that he was being serious. Does this guy even have the demeanor of an expert? He actually haggled over such a small matter with me. He doesn't have the slightest bit of magnanimity. Moreover, his conditions are so vulgar. He is no different from an ordinary hooligan. Lying on the ground naked, Gulifia felt much more relaxed. Just now she was pinned to the ground by Wu Qin and couldn't move. Her whole body was almost stuck to the ground. Now she felt much more relaxed. The haze that shrouded her heart was also swept away. Her breathing was much smoother. However, she could only crawl on all fours like an animal. She tried to stand up, but the majestic pressure forced her to crawl on the ground again. This bastard is definitely doing this on purpose, definitely. Gulifia's face alternated between green and white. Despite her unwillingness, she was powerless to retort. She even had a fawning expression on her face. Only an idiot would offend a powerful Demon King for some trifles for no reason. In fact, it was the same in every world. The powerful could trample on everything without any qualms. They didn't need to care about other people's feelings, just like Dustless. The weak were destined to become the bargaining chips of the powerful. Sometimes they had to endure being slapped in the face even if it meant breaking their teeth. Gulifia could only endure all kinds of unfair treatment because she was too weak. Pa! A crisp sound rang out. If it wasn't for Dustless's soundproof barrier, even Junai would have heard it. Gulifia suddenly felt a sharp pain in her lower body. She subconsciously looked over and saw a glaring red claw mark left behind by Dustless. The breasts that were attacked were her pride and joy. Are you going to run or not? Wu Qin asked impatiently. His tone was filled with irritation as he threatened, don't exhaust my patience. You can't bear the consequences. Take out something that can please me and I can help you unify the world. The consequences of angering me will be the opposite, just like now. Crack, crack, crack. Dustless suddenly clenched his fist. The untouchable void was like a mirror that was easily crushed by Dustless. Just what level is this guy at? Eulephia's heart was in turmoil. Her eyes were wide open. I understand. Eulephia eventually relented. She got on all fours and circled around Dustless's feet twice. She didn't have the strength to resist, and the result would be even worse. Dustless would mercilessly destroy her body and soul. Haha, aren't you the Demon King's wife? I hate people like you who think too highly of themselves. Dustless was secretly pleased. In fact, he liked Eulephia very much. This kind of woman was very loyal and capable, but the only thing he couldn't accept was that she was too domineering and had high expectations of herself. She might only have Demon King Xianxia in her eyes. Dustless didn't have absolute confidence in taking her down without destroying her confidence. The first step was to shatter her confidence and make her realize her own value. Only then would everything be solved. Stop right there. A hint of mockery flashed across Dustless's face as he teased, be more serious for me, I'm going to ride you right now. Ride me? Don't mess around. Hearing this, Eulephia's thoughts went astray. Her face turned pale, and her clothes barely covered her body as she trembled. Don't move. Do you think you can resist if I want to? Dustless mocked. Then, his body suddenly lost gravity and floated up onto Eulephia's jade-white back. Run 2 laps. Dustless looked up and said coldly. Eulephia had no choice but to use her hands and knees to slowly swim around Dustless's hut. Eulephia didn't feel any discomfort when a human suddenly appeared on her back. In fact, she didn't even feel anything. The only thing she found hard to accept was that she was naked, while a human was riding her and giving orders. Just thinking about it made her face turn red. You can't take the initiative to confess such a shameful thing. Dustless noticed Eulephia's embarrassment and only smiled without saying anything. That was to be expected. No one would be able to talk about something like that. Stop. A few minutes later, Wu Qin, who felt bored, stood up and threw a piece of clothing to Eulephia, hinting her to put it on. Now it was time to talk business. You'll be one of my maids from now on. Stay away from Xianxia. If I hear anything bad about him, I'll join whoever has the worst relationship with Xianxia. Revealing a hint of viciousness, Dustless threatened. Eulephia sighed lightly and finally nodded elegantly. Her words and actions always carried a noble air, but combined with her smile that was uglier than bitterness, she looked rather bitter and sad. Also, tell Rias that Hyodo Kazunari isn't a good person. Stay away from him. Alright, that's all. You can go back now. Hearing that, Eulephia's dispirited spirit was swept away, and a glimmer of hope appeared in her eyes as she came up with a plan. This guy is very powerful and it seems like he's interested in Rias. If I can get them to marry, it'll indirectly mean I have another demon king to help me. Eulephia was no fool. She realized the stakes and hurriedly left. Chapter 1258. Some things were just like that. Since one could not fight back, one could only take it in silence. Since one could not go against the flow, one could only turn the disadvantageous situation to one's advantage. As for whether it was fair or not, Eulephia did not even think about it. Whoever had the bigger fist had the final say. That was the only law that had not changed since the beginning of time. Take and be taken, that was the most realistic portrayal of the current world. I can marry Lise off to that guy. An idea flashed through Eulephia's mind as she pursed her lips into a mesmerizing smile. As for Phoenix, I can only say that I'm sorry. Thinking of Phoenix, Eulephia could only apologize. The strong preyed on the weak, and since Dustless was more suitable, Phoenix was destined to be eliminated. The strong preyed on the weak, that was also an absolute law that would never change. It would be best if he could marry into the Gimli family. That way everything would change. Eulephia's eyes sparkled as she suddenly felt that this was a very good deal. Compared to scum like Phoenix, Dustless was more suitable for Lise. But that guy actually dared to. Eulephia was furious when she thought about how Dustless had seen everything of her body. Especially when she was being ridden around by Dustless, she felt even more humiliated. Forget it. The strong call the shots in this world. Women are just insignificant clothes to some powerful people. If they get dirty or torn, they can change into another one anytime. No one will care. Gilephia laughed bitterly at herself as she chose to forget everything that had just happened and endure it in silence. So what if she told her husband, the current demon king Sizax Gimli? It would not be of any use. Whether or not he could beat Dustless was a problem. Moreover, Gilephia would not be able to tell him. If the truth were to be revealed, Sizax would not be able to hold his head up high. The title of being a cuckold would spread to every corner of the world, and she would be looked down on in the future. Time passed by slowly. When she realized it, it was already the next morning. Life is truly unpredictable. The young man in the uniform sighed. The young man in the school uniform sighed and looked over. It was Dustless who was yawning with a sleepy face. At this moment he was on his way to school. He woke up a little late today. After playing horseback riding with Gilephia for half a day last night, it was inevitable that he would wake up late this morning. Seriously, you still want me to go to school? Sigh. Dustless, who was over 100 years old, didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he thought about it. Even now he still felt like he was in the clouds. Ouch, it hurts. At this moment, a low cry of pain attracted Dustless's attention. Following the source of the sound, the person who cried out in pain was a blonde girl wearing a nun's dress. Gulp. The blonde girl was sprawled on the ground. Due to her special clothes and the way she fell, Dustless could even see Fatu's white skin. This is... Dustless looked at the blonde girl in a daze. Her emerald green eyes were very familiar to Dustless. No wonder she looked so familiar. So it's Aisha. Wuxian came to a sudden realization. Then he swaggered away and walked toward Aisha. Little sister. Are you okay? Dustless, who realized that something was wrong, immediately changed his words. It was very rude to call someone little sister, when he didn't know them. The church? If I didn't know better, I would have thought that it was a place where scholars gathered. In fact, it's a bunch of perverts. Looking at Aisha's explicit church dress, Dustless despised her in his heart. He then shook his head and looked at Aisha, who was still sprawled on the ground. She was in pain and it was very difficult for her to move. After all, she was just a simple-minded girl. Not everyone was as impenetrable as Dustless, who could stand still and let people hit him. Are you okay? Dustless took the initiative to reach out his hands to support the girl. Unexpectedly, he grabbed Aisha's snow-white wrist. His heart trembled and ripples appeared in his calm eyes. Dustless glanced at the girl. Although she was young, her body had already begun to take shape. That delicate touch made Dustless daydream. I'm sorry. Did I disturb you? I didn't do it on purpose. Aisha, who stood up, quickly bowed and apologized. She also thanked him solemnly. Thank you for helping me. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At this moment, a gentle breeze suddenly came, and Aisha's dress was suddenly blown up. The light under her dress was completely exposed to Dustless. Seeing this scene, Aisha's face turned red as if it was burning. She stuttered for a long time but couldn't say anything. You're hurt. Dustless, who had sharp eyes, stared at the abrasions on Aisha's palm. Then he grabbed her right arm again, which made her even more embarrassed. I accidentally fell and hurt myself, Aisha said with a red face. Just as she was about to pull her arm back and say that she was fine, she suddenly realized that Dustless was touching her restlessly. Her good impression of Dustless instantly disappeared. Why are you? What is this? Feels so cool. The anger on Aisha's face dissipated. Her mind was swallowed by the temporary feeling of pleasure. She was deeply immersed in it, unable to extricate herself. There was a mysterious warm current flowing around in her body, nourishing her wounds. It was warm and comfortable as the sun. Opening her eyes wide, Aisha was shocked to find that her broken wound had healed in an instant. Her clean skin was white and there were no flaws or scars. How did you do it? Aisha looked at Dustless with her eyes shining brightly. She was deeply puzzled. Chapter 1259. Aisha raised her voice by a few decibels. Her beautiful gem-like eyes were filled with astonishment. Her small mouth opened and closed, which made her look even more lovely and moving. Anyone who saw her could not help but want to take pity on her. Nothing to be surprised about, it's just a trick. Dustless smiled calmly, his tone revealing the meaning of disdain. He could turn back time, bring people back to life, and create or destroy worlds in the blink of an eye. It was even easier to cure something as trivial as that. Perhaps because it was her first time meeting a stranger, Aisha was especially nervous. She clenched the corner of her shirt, her palms sweaty, and could not finish her sentence. You. Seeing this, Dustless frowned slightly. He looked at her panicked eyes and guessed, You're not lost, are you? Hearing this, Aisha's little face turned red from the expanding hydrogen gas in the sky. That's my first time in this city, so I don't know the way. The cute girl clenched her fists as she mustered her courage. Don't worry about it. When I first came here, I was also very confused. Dustless replied faintly and then invited her, looking at your attire, you should be from the church, right? I happen to be familiar with the place, so I can take you there. Thank you so much. Isha was overjoyed and quickly bowed to Dustless to thank him. She then grabbed the corner of his shirt, as if she was afraid that Dustless would leave. Let's go. Seeing this, Dustless smiled and turned to leave. As for the class, he forgot about it. The sky was getting hotter and hotter, and it was almost noon. Xianxia. What a rare guest. What do you want from me? A young woman in maid attire stood in front of the paranormal research department, like a shining treasure, attracting everyone's attention. Of course, there were not many people in the empty room. There was only Junai, Riaz, and Xianxia. Riaz, is Hyoto Kazunari your new family member? I hope you stay away from her in the future. It was rare for Xianxia to use a commanding tone, and she was afraid that Riaz would think that she was joking. This is an order from your father and brother. Riaz, who had the cup of coffee in front of her mouth, paused and stared at Xianxia's face. May I ask why? She asked. Of course you can, but I have no right to answer you. Don't think I'm joking, Xianxia warned, rudely dashing Riaz's hopes. If I find out that you're doing something beyond my tolerance, I'll personally destroy Issei Hyuga, even if he has unlimited potential. Hearing that, Riaz could not help but get angry. After complaining in her heart for a while, she had no choice but to obey. After all, this was the will of her father and brother. One more thing, Xianxia, who was about to leave, turned around gracefully. A strange look flashed across her beautiful face as she said softly, your marriage with Phoenix might change in the future. Chapter 1260. At the same time, in another direction, Dustless and Isha were chatting happily, laughing and chatting non-stop. Dustless never felt that he had other attributes other than fighting, killing, and scheming, picking up girls. On the road, the two walked together. Dustless accompanied her to buy a lot of things, including daily necessities. Seems like we're here. Looking up at the unique building in the distance, it looked majestic and holy under the sun. But the darkness under the light was unreadable. Thank you. Isha bowed again and thanked him seriously, as if bowing had become a habit for her. No need to mind, I'm bored anyway, it's just to pass the time. Dustless smiled, giving off a refreshing feeling. Goodbye. Her face flushed red and she fled at the sight of him. Whoosh. Her footsteps suddenly stopped. A thought flashed through Isha's mind. She turned around and asked, so, we're friends from now on? Yes. Dustless nodded lightly and thought to himself, this is only temporary, our relationship in the future will be far more than just friends. As soon as she finished speaking, Isha skipped away looking quite happy. After breaking up with Isha, Dustless did not rush to school. He was never interested in this kind of thing. Instead, he went straight back to the house where he lived with Junai. But unfortunately, Riaz, who came with ill intentions, had been waiting for him for a long time. Please explain why you skipped class, Dustless. In the hall, Riaz crossed her legs, hugged her arms, and dragged her proud assets up. Her tone was filled with undisguised dissatisfaction. Riaz. Dustless was speechless. He looked straight ahead and suddenly saw something he should not have seen. Don't change the topic, I want the reason. With a straight face, Riaz curled her lips and said in disdain. Actually, I wanted to say, you're exposed, Riaz. Wuxian teased. Riaz happened to be sitting opposite him. She was wearing a short skirt, and because she was crossing her legs, Wuxian had a good view of the depths of her white thighs. Wuxian could see everything clearly. Black. After a long while, Wuxian said something as if he was possessed by gods and demons. Hearing that, an awkward expression flashed across Riaz's face, and her crossed legs immediately relaxed. She naturally knew what color she was wearing today. Explain to me why. After glaring at Dustless with dissatisfaction, Riaz regained her composure. She did not mind at all and just laughed it off. It's a long story. The reason is, after spending more than 10 minutes, Dustless told Riaz everything without hiding anything. Of course there was no need to. Aisha? Is she from the church? A hint of disgust flashed across Riaz's eyes. She looked rather hateful. Not only her, but Jurai Himejima was also the same. Right, I have another question that I need you to help me with. I'm sorry, Riaz. Chapter 1261. Riaz was deeply surprised. She did not expect Dustless to be so carefree. She had planned to put on a live sex scene in Junai's house, but she did not expect Dustless to be so generous. No. Ria's pretty face flashed with determination, and she rejected Dustless's offer without any regrets. You must take my chastity now. Ria's face reddened as she said resolutely. Take your chastity? Hearing that, Dustless was stunned and repeated like a machine. His tone was unprecedentedly sluggish. Did I hear wrongly? You actually want to have sex with me? Not only Dustless but Junai was also suspicious. Rias, have you thought it through? Junai's eyes flashed and her eyebrows furrowed. She was also suspicious and instinctively thought that she was toying with Dustless. Although Rias was very revealing at times, she would never be perfunctory in this kind of situation. After all, it was something that concerned a person's life. I'm sure. Meeting Dustless's gaze, Rias responded. Although it was only 3 words, it was still resolute. Hearing that, Dustless could not help but feel a surge of emotions. He exclaimed in his heart, I'm just too handsome. A beauty throwing herself at him and wanting to go to hell with him. No, Car and Rias had nothing to do with him. He could only say that she was addicted to his handsomeness. Rias, you have a fiancé. If you act so recklessly, you might get into big trouble in the future. Junai frowned and her words hinted that she wanted to stop her. So that's how it is. This little girl was trying to trick me. If I took her chastity, then on the contrary her marriage would also fall through. At that time the person who took her chastity would be me. Without a doubt I would definitely be pushed to the heart of the storm. Dustless suddenly realized that this was not seducing him, but digging a hole for herself. Rias, what you're doing is indirectly harming me. I'm sorry but I won't agree. Dustless shook his head. Even though he really wanted to have a wonderful night with Rias, he rejected her decisively. You. Hearing that, Rias's voice faltered and a flame of anger rose in her heart. She did not expect Dustless to be so ungrateful. Hee. Dustless smiled but did not say anything. He looked at Rias's gloomy little face, glanced at her smugly and left. Junai, I'm a little tired today. You don't have to prepare my dinner. When Wu Chen's voice fell, he walked up the stairs. His tone was lazy and he seemed to be very tired. If it's not decent at all. Bad review. As she watched Dustless leave, Rias pouted unhappily before sitting down dejectedly. Lias, you really don't like your fiancé? Junai sat beside Rias. The two of them were not only superior and subordinate but also best friends. Of course. Who would like a stranger? That's why I'll choose Dustless. At least we know each other, Rias said with a headache, but there was no regret in her tone. Hee. At this moment Junai suddenly grinned. Don't worry. I know Dustless very well. If he doesn't want to talk to you, you can talk to him. Junai lowered his voice, obviously with bad intentions. He glanced at the floor from the corner of his eyes. His meaning was self-evident. I'm speechless. Dustless ignored Rias, but Rias could use her passive skill to seduce Dustless. Hearing this, Rias fell silent. She lowered her head, her eyes gleaming as she carefully calculated the gains and losses. As the future heir of the Gimli family, she had a very good political brain. If I marry that kid, I'll have a lot of power in the future. With his protection, no one will dare to disobey my orders. Rias showed her unique ability to calculate all the advantages and disadvantages clearly before continuing. On the contrary, without this guy, I'll have to spend the rest of my life with an annoying stranger. That's worse than killing me. Her gem-like eyes were filled with resistance and doubt. Rias clearly did not intend to go along with her family's wishes. Junai, you're right. After a few minutes of silence, Rias chose to follow Junai's suggestion. Although Dustless was also a stranger and had a weird personality, they still understood each other. Rias did not reject Dustless. Compared to the stranger she did not even have the chance to meet, it was easier for Rias to accept Dustless. But that guy is very difficult to deal with. He's definitely the type that doesn't listen to force or persuasion. Rias was having a headache. She knew how difficult Dustless was to deal with. Normal people would want to swallow her alive when they saw her. Today she encountered such a strange accident with Dustless. Rias, if force doesn't work, you can use force. If force doesn't work, you can just drug him. Junai showed the style of a fujoshi. That smile on her face was extremely cunning. That's not good, Rias said with a face full of cold sweat. Although Junai did not mention any drugs, the two of them had known each other for many years, and Rias was very sensitive to the teasing tone. She immediately understood what she was talking about. I don't think it's bad. Junai shook her head and said with a normal expression, Only when a person's brain is about to explode and her thoughts are in a mess will she speak the truth. Only then can a person's essence be seen clearly. And Riaz, don't you think it's fun to tease that guy a little? Letting a person with great potential become a slave to your body, I think you've gained a lot. Chapter 1262. Hearing that, Riaz's eyes lit up, like a baby who had found a fun toy. Her pupils shone with a thirsty light, and she pursed her lips instinctively, showing excitement on her face. Without a doubt, Dustless was very strong. She didn't know exactly how strong he was. She only had a vague idea of how strong he was. His strength was boundless and beyond her knowledge. To be able to conquer such a strong man and make him infatuated with you. Riaz, don't you think it's very interesting? Junai instigated. It was not hard to tell from Tiantian's rosy lips that she was also interested. The biggest difference between men and women was that men could control the world with their own strength and destroy everything, while women only needed to conquer the strongest man to get everything. Interesting. Riaz nodded noncommittally. She then glanced at the stairs leading upstairs, and a strange look flashed in her eyes. The bright moonlight hung high in the sky. It was particularly eye-catching and beautiful. Riaz, that little woman is very cunning. She wants to use me to attract firepower. She's too naive. The more anxious you are, the more I will drag it out. On the soft bed, Dustless said with his head resting on his hands. Although Dustless was also quite greedy for Riaz's beauty, there was nothing wrong with making her lose her appetite. And he had an even crazier idea. If one day Riaz and her sister-in-law Gulifia are willing to be together. Thinking of this, Dustless's evil smile became even wider. That kind of feeling, I'm afraid any man would want to experience it. Although Dustless's strength has reached the realm of perfection, he has never experienced the feeling of being a god. Of course, he was obsessed and fantasized. After fantasizing for a while, Dustless quickly fell asleep. After accompanying Aisha for a while, he also felt tired. Creak creak. Around midnight, there was the sound of the stairs creaking. Dustless's closed eyes opened instantly. His observation haki spread out and immediately understood the identity of the visitor. This looks like Riaz. What is she doing here in the middle of the night? He's not even wearing any clothes. Now Dustless's observation haki has reached its peak. It is no exaggeration to say that he can clearly feel the existence of the other party from tens of kilometers away. He could even discern the other party's clothes and heartbeat. That's interesting. Let's see what tricks you have up your sleeves today. Dustless closed his eyes and pretended to be asleep, quietly anticipating Riaz's magnificent performance. Dong dong dong. In the end, Dustless could feel the approaching footsteps, and it was not hard to tell that Riaz was close by. Creak. The door was gently pushed open and a ray of dim light shone in. At the same time there was a unique fragrance. What is that smell? Not bad. As the elegant fragrance entered his nose, Dustless nodded without a trace and sighed inwardly. He opened his eyes uncontrollably, wanting to see what Riaz brought to share with him. Teapot? There were also 2 cups. This guy wouldn't come to drink tea with me in the middle of the night, would he? So elegant? Dustless thought speechlessly. He glanced at Riaz again. She was dressed the same as when Dustless used his observation haki. She was completely naked. Forget it, continue to pretend to be asleep. After not understanding Riaz's intentions, Dustless just laughed it off. In the face of absolute strength, all schemes and tricks were a joke. You're so hard to please. She leaned close to Dustless's bed and looked down at the handsome sleeping face. The perfect face was like the bright moon hanging high in the sky, untouchable. Out of curiosity, Riaz could not help but scratch Dustless's little face. Riaz was surprised and pinched Dustless harder. After making sure she did not pinch wrongly, she said in surprise, "This guy isn't a woman, is he?" Dustless's smooth skin and messy black hair had an indescribable charm to it. What surprised Riaz the most was that Dustless's body had a unique body fragrance. Riaz could not help but lay down and her delicate white nose came close to Dustless and sniffed twice. This guy, don't tell me he's a female classmate. After staring at Dustless for a while, Riaz complained in her heart. If she ignored his chest and did not look at his hair, Dustless would definitely have a gorgeous transformation. Ambushing me in the middle of the night, it shouldn't be that boring. Dustless was very depressed. Even with his eyes closed, through the perception of observation haki, Dustless could sense that Riaz was close by and was looking at him in a daze. Because she was too close, Dustless could even feel the heat. He could feel the hot air blowing on his face. Why is this guy looking for me? Dustless thought in confusion. After realizing that Riaz did not have any ill intentions, he let down his guard and began to think about her motives. Gulp. At this moment, Dustless suddenly felt a stream of heat flowing into the corner of his mouth. It was sweet, it was the water in Riaz's teapot. It tasted good. Dustless also inhaled it. After a few minutes, after an unprecedented heat appeared in his heart, Dustless was stunned. This feeling is not right. Why do I feel hot for no reason? Could this be an aphrodisiac? Chapter 1263. Noticing the sudden huge change in his body, Wu Chen was stunned for a moment. The hot flame came out of nothing and wanted to burn Wu Chen's whole body. His white face turned dark red in an instant, and his steady breathing speed became rapid. Without a doubt, Dustless was sure that he had been drugged. F***ck, I'm a man, and I was drugged by a kid who laughed at me for over 100 years. How am I going to survive like this? Also, this Riaz is really brave. She knew that I'm not easy to deal with, so she used this method. Dustless was speechless. He knew that Riaz would not give up, but he did not expect her to be pushed to this extent. Off. The thick heat rushed into Dustless's nostrils. Like a catalyst, the effect of the drug that he had been suppressing increased exponentially, and in an instant, it dyed Dustless's face red. The effect of the drug continued to take effect, and every cell in his body felt uncomfortable and hot. After a moment of stalemate, Dustless could not hide it anymore and revealed his deep black eyes. Looking into Riaz's eyes, Dustless realized that she was naked, and shook his head with a bitter smile. He said hesitantly, "Miss Riaz, even if you want me to take away your chastity, you don't have to use such drastic measures." Looking at Riaz deeply, Dustless sensed something else from her clear eyes. A woman who liked to control her own fate. She would do anything for it. "You can understand my pain, so just give in to me." Her soft white thumb gently pulled open Dustless's pajamas, revealing his strong chest. His muscles were evenly distributed, and there was an indescribable sense of beauty. Dustless's body was like a giant sponge, absorbing all the hazy moonlight. His body was very eye-catching. This guy, is he really a woman? Riaz thought strangely, and her small hands could not help but reach into the depths of the blanket. "Without my permission, don't you dare touch me." Wu Chen scolded with a straight face. This guy was really audacious. He actually dared to touch his most important place. Slap. A light crisp sound was suddenly heard, and Dustless mercilessly slapped Riaz's small hand away. "I have no problem taking away your chastity, but I don't feel anything from the drug, so I need other tricks to satisfy me." Riaz was stunned and looked at Dustless suspiciously. After seeing his cunning smile, a flash of hesitation appeared. She was sure that Dustless did not have any good ideas, and must be thinking of some method that would harm others without benefiting himself. "Speaking of which, the medicine is so effective, why don't you have any reaction at all?" Although Dustless was panting heavily and his face was flushed red, he was still able to maintain his consciousness. Not only that, but he was also constantly taunting Riaz. Needless to say, he was fine. Hee. Hearing that, Dustless smiled condescendingly and raised a finger and shook it at Riaz. "What do you mean?" Seeing that, Riaz looked at Dustless in confusion and guessed, "Are you saying that you need 10 times the effect of the drug to knock you out?" "No." After a mysterious smile, Dustless shook his head. "Don't tell me that you need 100 times the effect of the drug to do it," Riaz said with a face full of distrust. She looked at Wu Chen with a face full of mockery. She was trying her best to hold back her laughter, as if she would laugh out loud if Wu Chen said it. "You're really stupid, Riaz. I'm talking about a drug that's at least 1,000 times stronger than the previous one to make me faint. If you want to completely knock me out, you need to multiply that by at least 10 times. In other words, a drug that's 1,000 times stronger than the previous one will turn me into a beast." Dustless said proudly, and at the same time, his red face returned to normal, and his heavy breathing disappeared. Everything that happened just now seemed to be a tease to Riaz. Riaz was stunned and cursed in her heart. Did this guy grow up on aphrodisiacs? That's why his immunity is so strong and he's completely fine. This kind of special drug can make even 10 elephants kneel. Looks like I have to agree to his terms. After thinking about it, Riaz realized that she did not have any trump cards to defeat the enemy. On the other hand, Dustless had all kinds of treasures in his hands, and she would not be able to refute any of them. "Say it, I'll definitely agree to it." Helpless, Riaz could only lower her proud head and choose to compromise. She could not just find a random person and give her most precious thing to someone who had no value at all. As for Issei Hutu, Rias just thought about it and laughed it off. He was just an insignificant pawn now, and calling him a demon was a stretch. Hee. Hearing this, Wu Qin let out a proud laugh. He stared at Rias' graceful body without scruples and nodded in admiration. He sighed inwardly, what a beautiful woman, the demon incarnate. My request is simple. If you want me to take away your chastity, I'll agree to it. But before that, you have to provoke my desire to take you. Dustless said directly, and his meaning was self-evident. The corner of his mouth had a wicked smile, and it was even more direct. If you want me to take away your chastity, sure, but I don't have much stamina, so... Staring at Rias's thin lips, Wu Qin changed his body into a more comfortable position and said in an inviolable tone, in order to prevent me from collapsing from exhaustion, Miss Rias, please at least use your mouth to wake me up. Chapter 1264. Hearing Dustless's shameless request, Rias was shocked. She may be young and inexperienced, but as the sister of the Demon King, Sizax, she was exposed to a lot of things. She immediately understood what Dustless meant. With such a direct hint, Rias could not play dumb even if she wanted to. Are you kidding me? Do you know who I am? Rias gritted her teeth and asked, veins popping out on her forehead. I'm not kidding, I'm serious. Pointing at his most important part, Dustless said with a serious face, come on, or I might change my mind later. You can't regret it even if you want to. Before I change my mind, you better finish it for me. Otherwise, when I change my mind, I might make even more unreasonable requests. Dustless said with a smile and pointed at his chest. You. Rias was furious. She was not an idiot, and she naturally knew what Dustless was hinting at. After a moment of hesitation, looking at Dustless's despicable smile, Rias's eyes were filled with reluctance. In the end, she could only compromise. Just like what Dustless said before, since she had a request to use, she had to pay a price. Gulp. Closing her eyes and enduring the discomfort, Rias swallowed Dustless' most important part. Open your eyes. No. No. Then I'll have to redefine our relationship. Miss Rias, not only do you have to open your eyes, you have to look at yourself in the mirror. Rias could only accept it in the end, sweating profusely. At this time, downstairs, Junai was elegantly holding a bubbling teacup with a strange expression. Damn it, did Rias forget to close the door? What kind of joke is this, not knowing to close the door? That fellow is really forgetful. Maybe she doesn't even remember that this is my house. She probably threw me aside and didn't care about me anymore. Junai's pretty face was flushed red, and two small dimples appeared on both sides of her cheeks. Her little face was flushed red, and her smile could topple cities and countries. Nothing could be more beautiful than this. At this moment, Junai was clearly different. She gripped the corner of her clothes tightly, and her eyes were filled with colorlessness. She glanced at the staircase from the corner of her eyes, and when she saw that the door wasn't closed, she quickly retracted her gaze. The weird noises produced by Wu Qin and Rias's entanglement were all transmitted into her ears. This was all because Rias did not close the door. Those two guys are they treating me like air? Junai thought to himself gloomily. He was extremely conflicted. He had no sense of existence in his home, and was directly forgotten by Dustless and Rias. How could he not be depressed? Creak, creak, creak. In the room Dustless and Rias were in, the bed rocked back and forth, and in just an hour, the creaking sound made one's imagination run wild. Phew! After an unknown amount of time, Rias let out a long sigh of relief, and her crawling body stood up again. Are you satisfied now? As soon as he finished speaking, Rias complained to the heavens. Her mouth had been occupied by Dustless for an hour, and there was almost no rest in the middle. Even when she wanted to take it out and rest for a while, she was coldly pressed down by Dustless. After working for so long, her speech was not normal anymore, and the muscles around her mouth were starting to cramp. Your skills are SOSO. Dustless glanced at Rias and sent her to hell with one sentence. If it's easy for you to say. After all, it's my first time doing something like this. What I need to hear is praise, not sarcasm, Rias said discontentedly. She then looked at Dustless and said, I've already met your requirements. I hope you can keep your promise and take away my chastity now. That annoying fiancé can go to hell. Instead of marrying a stranger, I'd rather take advantage of you. At least we've met a few times, spoken a few words, and at least we're desk mates. At the end, Rias's tone was obviously bleak and desolate. The descendants of big families were like this. They did not have the ability to control their own fates. they were just sacrifices for the marriage alliance. Of course I'll definitely keep my promise. You'll be mine from now on, Rias. Dustless pursed his lips and smiled, half as mysterious as a miracle pill. Only then did Rias feel a little better. At the same time, Dustless had already arrived in front of Rias. His eyes were gentle as he looked at Rias with deep affection. Just as he was about to tear apart the last barrier between the two, something unexpected happened. Rias, what you're doing is too much for us. A young woman with silver hair, dressed in a maid's costume, came into his sight. She stepped out of a blood-red magic circle calmly. When her bright eyes fell on Dustless, a touch of surprise flashed in her eyes, as well as a hint of joy flashed in her eyes. Do you two think it's appropriate for you to do this? Gulifia calmed herself down and asked plainly, her tone cold and questioning. Rias smiled sadly, her face pale and filled with helplessness and disappointment. She wanted to hand it over to Dustless, but she was still one step too late. Of course it's not appropriate. Seeing Gulifia appear, Dustless's eyes lit up and looked at her like a hungry wolf. Can it be appropriate without you? My ultimate goal is for the three of us to have a good night together. Chapter 1265. Hearing that, Gulifia looked at Dustless in panic. Only a handful of people knew about her relationship with Dustless, and now this bastard was going to reveal it to the world in front of Rias. How could Gulifia keep her dignity in the future? Without a doubt, she would become a laughingstock. The Demon King Xianxia was cuckolded? This explosive news was enough to shake the entire world. Kid, don't spout nonsense. I don't know you. Gulifia's face flashed with panic, losing her usual calmness. Watch your mouth. Gulifia cursed Dustless in her mind. Who was Rias? She was Xianxia's sister. If she knew that her sister-in-law had something to do with Dustless, what would she do? Just the thought of it gave Gulifia goosebumps. She glanced at Dustless with pleading eyes, wanting to compromise. Seeing that, Dustless smiled strangely and ignored Gulifia's pleading eyes. Miss Gulifia, have you forgotten what happened between us the other day? Dustless's face was filled with grief as he shouted, Then you take it off yourself. Enough. Gulifia's expression changed. Not giving Dustless a chance to speak, she displayed the authority of the Demon King's wife and said, Rias, I have some personal matters to discuss with her. It's too complicated. You may leave first. Gulifia. Don't tell me. Rias's eyes glowed. She was not a 3-year-old kid. From Dustless's cheeky expression and Gulifia's angry face, she could roughly guess what was going on. All right then. Rias, who was about to leave, suddenly stopped. She realized that she could not leave as she pleased. She had worked so hard for half a day, but she did not achieve her goal. Did this mean that she had been working for Wuxian for more than 2 hours, and her jaw was about to dislocate, but in the end she did not get anything? She could not help but glare at Dustless, her beautiful eyes spitting fire. Don't glare at me. This has nothing to do with me. It's all her fault. Dustless looked innocent as he pointed his thumb at Gulifia mercilessly. You ruined my business. Don't think I'll let it go so easily. Hearing that, Gulifia's face stiffened. She was furious. Rias was still there. Wuxian was purposely making things difficult for her. Why aren't you leaving? Seeing Rias dilly-dallying, Gulifia's tone was a rare sternness, as if she wanted to chase her out. I will remember this debt. I will definitely not let you off in the future. Rias's delicate nose, Rias and left gracefully. What's the meaning of this? You're doing this on purpose. Do you believe that I'll take you down with me? Gulifia lowered her voice and asked. Her hoarse voice was clear as if she had seen through life and death, as if she really wanted to go to hell with Dustless. Do you think threatening me will work? You want to take me down with you? Didn't I tell you the other day? You're the most suited to be a servant. Dustless laughed at Gulifia's threat. He found it hilarious that a dwarf was threatening a giant with such confidence. Dustless could not suppress the ridicule in his heart. You're looking down on me? Seeing this, Gulifia was infuriated. She lightly stomped her foot. Her beautiful eyes burst out with thick killing intent, and her whole body surged with a frightening ruthlessness. You ruined my plans, and now you want to take me down with you. If I don't teach you a lesson, you'll think that I'm made of mud. His pupils rolled, and the scarlet eternal Mangekyo Sharingan took over his entire eyeball. What kind of eyes are those? Why do I feel this way just by looking at them? Gulifia said softly. She felt as if she had been electrocuted just by looking at the strange crimson magma. Even the so-called strongest silver-haired queen of annihilation had become a defenseless little girl. Let alone a dimensional invader like Dustless, even a 7 or 8-year-old child with a sharp weapon could slaughter her in her current state. Let's play something interesting. The eternal Manjikyu Sharingan emitted bursts of red light. Although Gilifia realized that something was wrong and actively avoided Dustless's gaze, under this monstrous eye power, she was nothing more than a lamb with its limbs bound, suppressed by the monstrous eye power. Damn it! Gilifia cursed. Her body was suppressed by a mysterious aura. Her waist was bent, and her delicate face was almost stuck to the ground. Gilifia was on the verge of breaking down. She suddenly felt that the scene in front of her was extraordinarily familiar. It was almost the same as the scene from last time. A thought that made her break down appeared in her mind. This fellow? Could it be that he wants to ride me around again? Gilifia's body trembled at the thought. She was going to do the most humiliating thing in her life a second time. It was worse than being skinned alive and swallowed alive. Thinking of that day when Dustless used her as a horse and rode her around naked, Gilifia was filled with a rare sense of fear. Especially when Riaz was watching from the outside. If she sneaked in and found out that her sister-in-law was having an affair behind her brother's back, what would happen? Let's talk nicely. Don't mess around. Gilifia gave up her dignity and begged for mercy. Dustless was shameless, but if Riaz saw it, she would be too ashamed to face anyone. Chapter 1266. Seeing Gilifia begging for mercy, Dustless became even more aggressive. His gaze seemed to be able to see through half of a human's clothes, causing Gilifia's heart to palpitate uneasily. Dustless's clear eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. Any clothes were a joke in front of him. Put away that vulgar gaze of yours. Gilifia couldn't take it anymore and shouted. She quickly turned her back to Dustless, as if this was the only way for her to feel better. Only by doing so would she be able to act normal in front of the mischievous Dustless. You're interrupting my fun for no reason, and you want me to put up with you? Dustless chuckled and took the initiative to approach Gilifia. Her head had already slid out of her mouth and was about to pounce on Gilifia. Whoosh! Seeing the unfavorable situation, Gilifia dodged to the side and dodged Dustless's attack like a gust of wind. Oh, your reaction is pretty fast. I didn't expect a little girl like you to have some skills. Dustless teased, his eyes full of mockery. Gilifia frowned and instinctively sensed that something was wrong. She sensed the hidden meaning in Dustless's words and instinctively took a step back. Who would have thought that she would fall into Dustless's arms? Gilifia was stunned, her beautiful eyes overflowing with color. Dustless was right in front of her a second ago, and the next second, he appeared behind her without any warning. What did you do? Bastard, let go of me and stop your hand right now. Gilifia's face turned red with anger. She began to struggle with all her might, her demonic energy going berserk as she tried to force Dustless back. How long has it been? Dustless sneaked into her body and began to touch her without restraint. Don't move around. Don't forget where you are right now. Understand your position. Dustless frowned slightly when he saw Gilifia tumbling around like a loach. His words contained a hint of warning. You ruined my plans, so you have to compensate me for my loss. Dustless said rudely and unreasonably. He was not the kind of person who would abide by the rules. Gilifia was shaken and blushed. She naturally understood what Dustless meant. He was planning to force himself on her. Stop. I have something important to tell you. Since the hard way did not work, Gilifia decided to use a soft approach. It's about you and Riaz. About me and Lias? Just as Gilifia expected, Dustless's restless hands immediately stopped moving when Riaz was mentioned. He frowned and asked, What's the matter between me and Riaz? No, it doesn't matter. Even if that damned fiancé of hers really comes, I will take Riaz back. After saying that, Wu Chen's small hands began to move again. After a short while, Gilifia began to pant. Ugh! Gilifia was very depressed. Her heart was bleeding. She had met Dustless twice in total, and it was definitely the worst thing that happened to her. Even so, Gilifia did not hate Dustless. This was a world where strength was everything. The stronger one was, the more fearless they could be. Moreover, the education of strength was deeply ingrained in Gilifia. She was upset, but she could not resist because she did not have the ability. Going against the flow would only lead to more violent revenge. Don't worry. What if that fiancé is you? Gilifia raised her voice. That one sentence froze Dustless on the spot, and the hands in her arms retracted as if they had been electrocuted. You're not lying to me, are you? Dustless's face was full of doubt. He did not know whether to laugh or cry as he thought to himself, Damn it, why do I always cheat on people? Last time it was Sazak's, and this time it's that roasted chicken from the Phoenix family. What? I wouldn't dare. Hearing this, Gilifia revealed a bitter smile. Although she had only met Dustless twice, she knew that this guy hated liars. In fact, it was not just Dustless. Every powerful person hated being lied to. That would be best. Dustless nodded in satisfaction. While he was still doubtful, he thought about it and understood. After all, his strength was there for all to see. It was normal for Rias's parents and brother to think highly of him. Comparing Dustless and Hyoto Issei, it was easy to imagine who was stronger. But Dustless stared at Gilifia with glowing eyes like a starving wolf. Gilifia immediately backed away. Just as she was about to activate her mana to escape, Dustless came before her and easily suppressed her. Now that you mention it, you're even more guilty, Gilifia. Don't you think you should apologize with your body for interrupting me and my fiancé? With that, chakra waves erupted from Dustless's palm, shattering Gilifia's clothes and exposing her perfect body to Dustless. Gilifia felt as if she had fallen into an ice cavern. She did not even need to think to know what was going to happen next. She would be devoured by Dustless's domineering lover. It's your fortune to be with me. Some people want to be with me, but I'll kick them away. Dustless smiled as he gently rubbed Gilifia's body to feel her tender skin. Absolutely not. I already have a child. Gilifia argued, hoping that Dustless would break the news. But when she saw Dustless's dazed eyes, her body went limp as if she had been electrocuted and fell into Dustless's arms. Chapter 1267. Gilifia shrunk her neck with a fearful expression. She felt fear towards Dustless from the depths of her soul. This guy was fearless. Not to mention the fact that she was the Devil King's wife. Even if she was the Devil King herself, she still wouldn't be able to stop Dustless' progress. They were on completely different levels. Ding! Not long after, a moving moan came out of Gilifia's mouth, causing people to be lost in wild and fanciful thoughts, and they couldn't help but be led astray. Wu Chen's hands gently teased here and there. Every time he moved a bit, Gilifia's panting would become even more intense. Let me go, Gilifia said anxiously. She realized that she was about to be melted by Dustless. Instead of pushing Dustless, her fists actually slowed down when they landed on his body. It was more like she was begging him. Seeing this, Dustless didn't stand on ceremony and directly told Gilifia that he hadn't eaten for so long that he had long been suffocated. Creak! A few minutes later, there was the sound of violent shaking from upstairs. Of course, there was also Gilifia's shy moans. Even if she used all her strength, she couldn't resist Dustless's violent domination. It was completely useless. Moreover, Dustless was like a beast on fire. The more she resisted, the more pain she felt. Every cell in her body hurt, and her bones felt like they were about to fall apart. This night was destined to be a sleepless one. Dustless forced Gilifia to change all kinds of positions, tormenting her. The next morning, the sun shone brightly. Dustless followed Junai to school listlessly. The bright sunlight made him feel extremely uncomfortable. Dustless looked extremely dispirited. His back was hunched and there were clear dark circles under his eyes. He was even yawning. What did you do last night? Junai looked at the exhausted Dustless with a strange expression. She only heard from Rias that she was kicked out when she was about to break through the final barrier with Dustless. She didn't know what happened after that. What did I do? Of course, it's for the benefit of the entire human race. Wu Chen stretched lazily and said with a hidden meaning. Dustless was immensely proud of himself. Last night, he and Gilifia had been making babies all night. His waist was about to break. Gilifia couldn't bear it anymore and was directly knocked out by Dustless. Be careful. Gilifia, what she is has nothing to do with me. Glancing at Junai indifferently, Wu Chen's expression remained the same. No matter what her background was, Wu Chen wouldn't care. As long as she dared to come knocking on his door, he would just trample on her. What's more, a girl delivered herself to his doorstep. What's the difference between Wu Chen and a salted fish if Wu Chen still endured it? Ouch. A cry of pain attracted Dustless and Junai's attention. They both looked over at the same time. Aisha. You know her. Junai looked at Dustless in surprise, her brows knitted together. She stared at the blonde girl for a moment and said in surprise, "The blonde girl from the church you mentioned, is she?" "Indeed, she is Aisha. By the way, what about the matter I talked to the minister about last time? I hope she can become the minister's dependent. She's quite capable." Dustless ignored the latter's objection and pulled Junai's hand over shamelessly. Something's not right. She looks a bit messy. Is she being chased? Dustless's gaze turned cold. Looking at Aisha's blood-red clothes, a hint of anger flashed in his eyes. Wu Qin and Aisha had only met once. They weren't familiar with each other, nor did they fall in love at first sight. The girl had a weak appearance, isolated from the rest of the world. When facing her, Wu Qin was more lustful and protective. Your name is Donathik, right? A faint and clear cry descended from the sky, devoid of any emotion. It was a very ordinary sentence, but when it fell into Donaxi's ears, it was like thunder piercing through his ears. His mind felt like it was about to explode, and the world before his eyes turned blurry as overlapping images began to appear. Was it an illusion? Donathik, who came back to his senses, was shocked. In that instant he felt like he was the prey of a god, and he would be reduced to ashes with just a thought. Clang. Due to his excessive nervousness, Donathik didn't even hold the light spear in his hand tightly. In a daze, his hand loosened and it fell to the ground. It must be an illusion. There isn't such a scary guy in the world. Even if there is, he wouldn't target me for no reason. Damn it, Rina, Amano Shima, seems to be having such nightmares recently. Could it be that she infected me? His gaze valiantly swept across Dustless. Noticing that there wasn't the slightest fluctuation of magic on him, Donathik said arrogantly, "Where did this kid come from? If you don't want to die, get lost." Dustless looked at Donathik, amused and annoyed at the same time. He dug his ear and said, "What did you say? Can you repeat it? I'm deaf and didn't hear it." Donathik's face turned red. He was merciful enough to say so much to a human, but the other party didn't even understand what he meant. Didn't that mean that his words had been blown away by the wind, and didn't even reach Dustless's ears? If that's the case, then you can die. Donathik was so angry that he laughed. He picked up the light spear that had fallen to the ground and threw it out with all his might. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. A white-silver light pierced toward Dustless, and it looked like it was going to tear him apart. The attack was also very vicious, aiming at Dustless's head. It looked like it was going to tear him apart. However, the latter didn't move. Chapter 1268. If I'm killed by something like you, the people I've killed in the past, I'm afraid they'll jump out of hell and strangle me to death. Dustless smiled faintly and raised his right arm lazily. Golden light gathered at the tip of his index finger. After pausing for a few seconds, he unleashed it with all his might. Laser shot. A straight beam of light pierced through the sky, leaving behind a faint afterimage. Looking at it, the incoming spear of light was instantly reduced to a cloud of dust. Boom boom boom. The moment the two collided, everything turned into nothingness. What a strange move, but it's still a problem for you to defeat me. Tanaxi took out his spear of light, again after recovering from his shock. His confident look made it seem as though his spear of light would never run out. Forget it, I'll let you off the hook for now. This little girl is more important. Donathik turned the spear around and two black wings appeared on his back as he charged forward. Idiot. Dustless's eyes grew colder and colder with a chilling murderous aura. He raised his head and saw that Aisha was drenched in blood and her face was incomparably pale. Donathik, who was wearing a black coat, chased closely behind her. There was an evil smile on his face, full of mockery. You're courting death. Seeing this, Dustless's body exploded with a brilliant light and turned into a golden beam of light that shot forward. What a flash. The flash exploded with an unprecedented golden luster. Junai instinctively closed her eyes. That gorgeous luster seemed as though she would be blinded if she looked at it any longer. Not only that, it was also very sacred. Junai couldn't help but feel a sense of respect. When she realized what had happened, even Junai herself was at a loss. Why would she feel respect for a mortal? This became an unsolved mystery. If you still want to run? If I can't even take care of a worm like you, how am I going to survive in the future? Donax laughed maniacally as the two black wings on his waist flapped, stirring up a violent gust of wind. He leaped into the air and his speed was dozens of times faster than before. In the blink of an eye, he was right in front of Isha, who had turned pale with fright. What are you waiting for? Boom boom boom. Before he could finish his sentence, a beam of light shot down from the clear sky and mercilessly covered Donathik's body. Ah! A painful scream immediately came out of his mouth. His two wings were scorched in the air and slowly evaporated. Not only that, but the other parts of his body were also burned at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the smell of rotting flesh filled the air. "Are you all right, Aisha?" Beside Isha, light floated and condensed into the elegant face of a black-haired youth. "It's you, Dustless?" Isha cried tears of joy. She was so excited that she hugged Wu Qin tightly. "So fragrant." The soft touch made Dustless's face reveal a look of enjoyment. Dustless praised in his heart. Then he frowned and suddenly realized that Isha's body was wet and had turned blood red. It turned out that she had been drenched in blood and there were wounds all over her body. "They did it?" Dustless glanced at Donaxi, who was rolling on the ground and screaming miserably. He said, "Don't worry, you're safe now. It's nothing. It's just a small injury." Isha revealed a cheerful smile, indicating that she was fine. However, her face was pale from the pain. "You are really kind, Aisha." Dustless sighed inwardly at her ignorance and didn't say anything. Perhaps this was her cute side. At the same time, the shining lightspeed kick on Dustless's feet quickly extinguished. His eyes locked onto Donaxi as he spoke coldly. "I wanted to finish you in one move, but it looks like I'm letting you off too easily. Aisha and I are friends. The pain she suffered will be returned 100-fold by you. So, it's better for you to be slowly burned to death." When Dustless finished speaking, Donaxi let out an even more miserable scream. It could be heard clearly from hundreds of meters away. "This fellow looks harmless on the surface, but he's actually very vicious. Or rather, he values his friends very much. Those who take revenge on his classmates will suffer retaliation 10-fold or 100-fold. Looking at Donaxi's melted pineapple-like skin that fell to the ground like water, even Junai, who was a sadist, had a slight change in expression. She had a clearer understanding of Dustless. A dragon has a reverse scale. Those who touch it will definitely die. This sentence was the most suitable to describe him. It was boring. Even if he made a joke that went too far, he could laugh it off. However, when he angered Dustless just like Donaxi, he would suffer a fate worse than death. Hey, don't look at me like that. I'm actually a very gentle man." The teasing tone rang in Junai's ears and pulled her back from her daze. When she looked up, she coincidentally met Dustless's eyes. She carefully examined this cheeky face and for some reason she felt that it was extremely unfamiliar. No one could tell what he was scheming in his heart. "Speaking of which, have you already escaped from Amano? Really?" Dustless, who realized his name, quickly changed it. At the same time he looked at Junai and said, "Rias has been lacking a monk recently. I think Isha is very suitable." Junai looked at the nervous Isha with hesitation. Thinking of the ability that Wu Qin had introduced before, he nodded his head and confessed. "She has already parted ways with the fallen angel. If that's the case, Rias won't reject her anymore, right? I'll definitely work hard." Isha was excited when she heard that. Her pretty face blushed and looked very cute. After she left the professor's dark side, the first person she thought of was Dustless, who was her friend. Chapter 1269. Isha clenched her fists so tightly that they turned cold. She grabbed Dustless's big hand with both hands and held it tightly as if she was afraid that he would slip away. "You're quite popular." Junai's eyes narrowed into crescents. He looked very cunning and it seemed like he was up to no good. "By the way, Miss Isha, I forgot to tell you that Dustless may look young, but he's already married." Afraid that Dustless and Isha would not fight, Junai tried to sow discord. "I just heard from Gilifia that Dustless has become the department head's fiancé. She even said that they might get married soon." "Married? Are you kidding me? How come I don't know about this?" Dustless asked with a frown. He was sure that Junai was doing this on purpose. That evil look in his eyes said it all. "Really?" Isha's tone changed when she heard that. There was a hint of resentment and even a little sobbing. "Crying just like that? Is this girl made of water? She can get water out just by squeezing a little?" Dustless was speechless. He did not expect this girl to cry so easily. She was a little naive. "Just you wait." He glared at Junai. He would not let this go so easily. He would deal with Junai in the future. "To be honest, I do have an engagement with Rias." Dustless chose to be honest. Maybe if it was someone else he could go against his conscience and fool them, but Isha was an exception. Dustless was her only friend. If he lied to her over such a small matter, he would be worse than an animal. "I knew it." Isha's face was as white as a sheet. She looked weak as if her soul had been sucked out. Her body swayed from side to side. "Don't worry, demons can marry more wives." Dustless's eyes lit up. He casually came up with a lame excuse that even he found hard to pronounce. "I can do that. Demons can marry more wives." Junai and Dustless stood on the same side and comforted Isha. Perhaps they knew that it would not be good to continue this argument. Yeah, demons are so nice. Isha's gem-like eyes shone brightly. Her eyes turned into crescent moons as she smiled. Well, I'm still the most handsome one. Dustless was secretly pleased. Isha had abandoned her master and chose to jump into Dustless's trap. Clearly his charisma was at work. Someone's there? Wu Chen's face suddenly became serious. He turned his head and looked at the green forest behind him. He vaguely saw a pair of crystal eyes. It's her? She's still not giving up. Seemingly aware of Dustless's detection, the pupil hidden in the dense forest hurriedly retracted. In an instant, it hid and disguised itself. She didn't know that Dustless would only humiliate her with her laughable concealment technique. Junai, I still have some private matters to settle. You take Isha back to school first. I'll leave the matter of her family and her enrollment to you. Dustless's eyes turned cold as he glanced at the forest. Leave it to me. Junai had his signature friendly smile on his face. It was as if he had met his sister. He chatted with Isha and wanted her to integrate into this new group as soon as possible. In the dark forest there were few people. Occasionally there would be a few dark shadows flitting across the sky. The startled cawing of the crows combined with the deathly stillness of the environment was simply a natural cemetery. Only Superman could maintain his composure in this place. Your low-level concealment technique. Forget it. You're not even concealing your own presence. It's just a simple concealment technique. In the forest he recalled the young man's disdainful taunts. The disdain in his words was not concealed at all. About 4 to 5 meters in front of Dustless, there was a girl with beautiful black hair, a hot body and a pair of black wings. She was like a beautiful scenery that attracted Dustless's attention. You're quite pretty but your heart has been dyed black. Amano-shima. Oh no, I should call you by another name, Ms. Rina Ray. Dustless smiled gently. He gave off a warm and gentle feeling. You know my name? Amano-shima's heart sank when she heard what he said. She had a deeper understanding of Dustless's mysteriousness. Give that little brat to me. I can give you everything you want. Amano-shima said in a carefree tone with a sense of going all out. She also understood that one could not get the wolf without sacrificing the child. Finally she added, of course including myself. If you want, I can still give myself to you. You can do whatever you want. You can play with me however you want. Amano-shima's face revealed a bashful expression. Even she felt embarrassed saying those words. Only an idiot would fall for it. Dustless did not think much of it. Amano-shima was just an empty promise. Of course she could make any promise she wanted. She could even make it more unreliable. He was afraid that after he gave Isha to her, she would run away. I can give Isha to you but I have a condition. You must let me decrypt your body first. This is the pre-sale experience. Otherwise I can't do it. Even if you kill me I can't do it. Dustless laughed. Amano-shima was despicable? He could be more despicable than Amano-shima. Chapter 1270. Hearing Dustless's words, Amano-shima's small face instantly froze. Her mouth twitched. Just when she was about to open her mouth to deny Amano-shima, she realized that most of her brain cells had died. She couldn't find a reason to refute Dustless's point of view. At that moment she could only stand on the spot with nothing to do. What if you regret it? Thinking of the importance of the Aisha divine equipment, Saint's smile, Amano-shima finally chose to compromise after a slight struggle in her heart. When facing Dustless she didn't have any advantage at all. There were a few times when she lost her dignity and became a laughingstock. As for using force, Amano-shima didn't even think about it and directly ignored it. When Amano-shima saw the shocking scene of Donathik being crushed just now, she was shocked in her heart. Raising his head to look at Dustless's face, Amano-shima recalled the battle just now. Dustless was like a cat playing with a mouse, wantonly controlling the battle situation. That was not a battle at all. It could be more accurately described as a big fish eating a small fish. Me regret it? This will depend on your performance. If you are willing to let me play comfortably, I will naturally fulfill your wish. If you don't reach the standard, I will definitely regret it. Of course, the final choice is still yours. It's up to you to agree or not. I won't force you. Dustless had a magnanimous expression on his face that said, you should thank me. You, swallowing her saliva, Amano-shima was secretly furious. Dustless's words were beautiful, but in reality, Amano-shima didn't have the right to choose. No matter what choice she made, there was only one path in front of Amano. If she wanted to get the saint's smile, she could only agree to Dustless. Hee, I didn't force you. Since you have made your choice, then let's go. Dustless took a few steps forward and held Amano's small hand affectionately. He winked at her and his handsome face had an ambiguous smile. Amano's mind was shaken. She struggled slightly, but her negligible strength couldn't affect Dustless at all. In the end, he closed his eyes and silently accepted his fate. He could only follow Dustless's footsteps and leave. Inside the brightly lit room, it was very luxurious and spacious. Dustless leaned lazily against the side of the large square pool to rest. The exquisite marble was exceptionally smooth and comfortable, and he didn't want to get down when he lay down. Dustless was naked, without the slightest covering on his body. There was also a woman beside her who was doing the same thing. She was completely naked, and she was doing her best to massage Dustless's back and legs. Her technique was very precise. She didn't use too much force on the places that needed to be used too much force, and she used too much force on the places that needed to be used. The young girl served Wu Chen with all her might. Her black hair was like a waterfall that reached her waist. There were sweat stains on both sides of her temples. She looked exhausted. Looking closely, the girl who was painstakingly massaging Dustless's legs was Amano. Oh, I was right about you. This technique, Tiske, you can stay by my side and serve me in peace. Dustless closed his eyes and enjoyed the massage comfortably. It was as if he was floating in the sky, and his body was exceptionally light. Amano's wonderful massage technique made Dustless secretly exclaim at how powerful she was. During this period of time, he went through Amano's memories. 4 low-level fallen angels like her, they usually monitored others and seduced others. Dustless was her first customer, which also meant that Dustless was her first target. Her technique was indeed very wonderful. It's good that you like it. Amano showed a forced smile on her face as she replied with a fake smile. No, I don't like it. Suddenly opening his bright eyes, Dustless said with dissatisfaction. Your smile is uglier than your crying face. How can I be happy? Looks like you can't do it. So, I'm sorry I can't give Aisha's divine weapon, Saint Smile, to you. Hearing that, Amano's head was about to explode. On her forehead that was as smooth as jade, a few scary green veins appeared. Are you trying to trick me? Are you planning to eat everything and not admit it? Amano asked furiously. She thought that she had served Dustless wholeheartedly, but this fella directly sent Amano to hell with just a sentence of, I don't like it. How could she continue to swallow this insult? This was too infuriating. Amano saw the satisfied expression of No Che clearly just now. Now he actually said something like, I don't like it. He was obviously trying to bully her shamelessly. Ouch. At this moment, Dustless showed a happy expression. His old face also cooperated and turned pale. Your rash action just now scared me. Now the blood in my body is flowing 10 times faster and so is my heart. Hurry up and decompress me. Dustless pretended to be in pain as he said. However, his sparkling eyes were blinking. It was obvious that Dustless did it on purpose. You. Hearing that, a hint of anger flashed across Amano's pretty face. Her delicate little hand clenched into a fist under the control of the flame. Using all of her strength, she smashed it towards Dustless. Boom. Seeing this, Dustless smiled disdainfully, raised his fist lazily, and simply caught the wind of Amano's fist. It was soft in his hand and it felt good to the touch. Originally, Dustless planned to tease Amano. He had used Rinnegan to read Amano's memory. Her life was also extremely miserable. She was just trained as a tool. Now, after Amano made such a scene, it immediately aroused the ambition in Dustless's heart. Amano felt the abnormality of Dustless, and the strength of Dustless's hand increased. She was so scared that she panicked. She used all of her strength to break free from Dustless's restraint. However, the effect was minimal. Resistance didn't win her sympathy. Instead, it led to more cruel treatment. Chapter 1271. Amano was furious, but when she knew that she was setting herself on fire, she quickly stopped. You got on my boat? You still want to run away? Do you think that's possible? Dustless hugged Amano who refused to obey him and teased her. The more you struggle, the more interesting I find it. To be honest, compared to those who don't move and are like walking corpses, I prefer young girls like you. That sentence sent Amano straight to hell. Amano stuttered for a long time and couldn't say anything. Her face turned green and white. She was so shocked by Dustless that she couldn't say anything. If you don't say anything, I'll take it as a yes. If that's the case, I'm going to start, Shima. With a sly smile, Dustless didn't give Amano Shima a chance to refute. He immediately opened his mouth and captured Amano Shima's charming lips. Soon, Amano Shima felt a huge pain. Her whole body felt like it was being torn apart. She couldn't help but tear up. In the Supernatural Research Department in Kumo Academy. Welcome to my family. My name is Rias. Due to her height, Rias looked down at the blonde girl who was close to her. After secretly sizing her up, Rias showed a satisfied and gentle smile. She also extended her arm elegantly and politely. My name is Aisha. Please take care of me in the future. The girl also extended her arm politely. The two of them shook hands and smiled at each other. It wasn't hard to see that they had a good relationship. Speaking of which, where is Dustless? The natural kitten asked. That guy is so busy. I rarely see him. Busy? Hearing that, Junai couldn't help but show a bitter smile. Dustless was indeed busy. There was nothing he could do about it. He had so many friends with benefits. Don't worry about him. Let's. Before Junai could finish his sentence, a bright light lit up in the dark room. A special magic circle appeared on the ground. Flames flew out from it and floated in the room like a bird. Looks like trouble is here. Damn it. I just settled one problem and another bigger one appeared. Rias complained with a headache. When she saw the flames, she already knew who was here. Is this how you greet people? Were the members of the Phoenix family so ill-mannered? Not only did you come uninvited, you even set off fireworks in someone else's house. Are you all immature brats? Rias's tone was also full of unfriendliness. She was openly mocking him. La 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 la. Rias, I haven't seen you for a while. How did you become so good at talking? It seems that after abandoning my brother and getting a new fiancé, your temper has become a lot worse. The melodious voice of a young girl came out of the magic array, and a graceful figure appeared in the flames. The girl had fair skin and beautiful features. Her voice was clear and melodious, like an oriole flying out of the valley. She was wearing a pink princess dress, revealing half of her breasts. She had an elegant and noble temperament. Her entrance brought the scene to another climax. LaBelle Phoenix's appearance attracted everyone's attention. With a light tap of her foot, she rose into the air and flew out of the magic array like a flower. Her vigorous figure was graceful, and combined with her devastatingly beautiful appearance, it made people feel ashamed of their inferiority. However, Rias was not interested in her beauty. She knew that this girl was here to cause trouble. Rias, you've dumped my brother. You've got guts. LaBelle Phoenix said unhappily. She looked very angry and her wrinkled little face was filled with anger. However, she did not lose her cute and charming appearance. No matter what expression this young girl made, it was impeccable, and people could not help but indulge in it. Stop trying to intimidate others. So what if I've dumped your brother? Rias smiled disdainfully. In terms of family power, the Phoenix family could not be compared to the Gimli family. Therefore, she could only ignore LaBelle's threat and could not do anything about it. Hearing this, LaBelle was also discouraged and snorted. But you've dumped my brother and humiliated the Phoenix family. Perhaps you should at least give us an explanation. This is not too much. Also, please call your fiancé out for me to take a look. To be able to snatch the daughter-in-law of the Phoenix family, he must have a great background. LaBelle Phoenix's eyes narrowed slightly, filled with anticipation and curiosity. Tisk. Seeing this, Rias curled her lips in disdain. She instantly understood LaBelle Phoenix's intention and exposed her. She said with disdain, instead of saying that you're here to cause trouble, why don't you say that you're here to see who that guy is? The fellow that Rias spoke of was naturally Dustless without a doubt. Hee. Seeing that her intention was exposed, LaBelle Phoenix did not feel awkward at all. Instead, she laughed generously. Of course I'm curious about someone who can snatch the daughter-in-law of the Phoenix family. I'm afraid it's not just me. Everyone who knows about this must be curious. After all, your identity is there. You're the Demon King's sister, the future successor of the Gimli family. Seeing this, Rias only snorted and crossed her arms. In reality, she was also shocked. Dustless had no background, no external help, and was fighting alone. Logically speaking, the chances of him being her husband were zero. However, such an inconceivable thing had happened. What made Rias even more speechless was Gilifia's anxious look at the same time. She was afraid that she was not good enough for Dustless. This was simply preposterous. Chapter 1272. She was the sister of the Demon King, the future heir of the House of Gimli, yet she was looked down upon by a nobody. Just the thought of it made Rias feel insulted. She felt that everything was unreal. He doesn't seem to be here. Ripples appeared in her eyes as La Belle Phoenix looked around. She realized that she could somewhat recognize everyone present. Other than Aisha, who had just joined the group, the others were all Rias's family members. La Belle had some impression of them. Where did that guy go? Looking at Rias suspiciously, La Belle smiled slyly. Are you saying that guy's looks are a disgrace and he's the type that would die in the light? That's not it. Dustless is very handsome and very mature. Xuanhuan stood out and interrupted. Recalling Dustless's unique aura, he could not help but praise him. He then added, I have to say Dustless is very charming. He has refreshed my understanding of handsome guys. He's perfect in every aspect. Are you exaggerating? La Belle glanced at Xuanhuan and grumbled unhappily. Is he even human? He's probably a virtual character that you've imagined in your dreams. La Belle's tone carried a hint of undisguised mockery. I say, at that moment, an extremely discordant voice sounded. It was filled with surprise. Don't tell me that the handsome god you're all talking about is me. Dustless's appearance stunned everyone. The others were still fine, but La Belle, who saw Dustless for the first time, was instantly mesmerized by Dustless's eyes. Just as Xuanhuan said, Dustless looked very young, and his appearance was that of a 17 or 18 years old. However, the unique aura of an old man on him was captivating, as if he had lived for hundreds of years. His sparkling eyes were filled with serenity and wisdom, giving people the feeling of being very stable. You, La Belle's voice faltered. She looked at Dustless, not knowing what to do for a moment. Rias, no matter what, I'm still a guest. Don't you think you should introduce yourself? You're the heir of the House of Gimli. Don't bring shame to your family. La Belle aimed her cannon at Rias and began to bombard her. You're right. Hearing that, Rias nodded and walked gracefully in front of Dustless. She gently took Dustless's arm and held it tightly, purposely raising her voice. His name is Dustless. He's my deskmate and also my fiancé. Especially when the word fiancé was mentioned, Rias almost fell into Dustless's arms. Damn it, for no reason at all, I was dragged into this jealous war by the two of them. The noble circle is really messy. Dustless said emotionally as he gently pushed Rias away. Even though she was as beautiful as a painting, he did not have the time to enjoy it. He had just climbed out of Amonoshima's body and he was extremely tired. It was as if his body was drained and he did not have any energy left. Chapter 1273. Hearing that, everyone looked at Dustless blankly. The seriousness on his face made it clear that he was not joking. You want me to be your servant? You sure have guts. I'm afraid I'll scare you to death if I tell you this. I'm the eldest daughter of the Phoenix family. You want me to be your servant? Unless you're a god. The young girl sneered angrily, and on the other hand she tried her best to ridicule Wu Chen for overestimating himself. What a coincidence. According to what you're saying, you're more suited to be my servant, Miss Libel? Or are you afraid to take the bet? You don't have the confidence to win against me. Looks like your Phoenix family is just SOSO. You're just a small family that talks big. Dustless attacked mercilessly, purposely fanning the flames of Libel's anger. Someone as arrogant as her would definitely view her family's glory as her life. What did you say? As expected, Libel was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. She almost jumped up and bared her fangs at Dustless. Since you want to play so much, I'll play with you this once. Ugh, you want to be someone else's servant instead of being a young mistress. Xuanhuan closed her eyes in despair. She knew that another beautiful young lady was about to fall, but she couldn't be bothered to stop her. After all, La Belle was the one asking for it. At the same time, she didn't like this overbearing young lady. Asking for it, everyone shook their heads hopelessly. They were bored by Libel's joke. This girl was just playing with fire and digging her own grave. I also hope that Miss Libel can win. A strange sound came from Dustless's throat. After looking at Libel for a few seconds, he smiled like a spring breeze. This girl is probably here for Rias. If she can get me, she'll be able to annoy Rias in the future. These young girls sure have nothing better to do. Dustless could not help but sigh in his heart. With his ability to observe people, he understood Libel's intentions almost instantly. However, Dustless would not reject someone who came to him voluntarily. What does Mademoiselle La Belle intend to compete in? Sitting on the sofa, Dustless leisurely crossed his legs. Beside him, Riaz was silent as if everything had nothing to do with her. Dustless was annoyed. "You're fine after using me? You should at least show some appreciation." Dustless got close to Riaz and ambushed her while she was taking a nap. "Who is it?" Realizing that she was being hugged, Riaz opened her eyes and shot out a chilling glare. "Bastard. My goddess." Seeing this scene, Issei Kudo, who had no sense of existence, exploded with anger like never before. Looking at Dustless and Riaz hugging each other, he did not feel good. No one would feel good when their goddess was in someone else's arms, especially Dustless, who was Riaz's fiancé. He was the one who tortured Brother Cheng, who was single. "You." Riaz glared at him. She did not expect Dustless to be so bold. "Tisk tsk. You only know how to kick me away after using me? There's no such thing in this world. Riaz, I'm your fiancé." Wu Chen smiled maliciously. His misty eyes silently indicated that if it weren't for the fact that there were too many people around, he would definitely have done Riaz on the spot and devoured her bones. "You two. That's enough. Don't ignore me." Libel roared with a red face. There was a need to pick a time and place to show affection. As the young mistress of the Phoenix family, Libel could not take it that he ignored her. At the very least she should feel how he felt. Let's have a match. If you can beat me, I'll be your servant from now on." Libel put her hands on her hips. Her domineering look made her look like a woman. "No problem." Dustless nodded lightly and let go of Riaz, whose face was red. "Let's end this quickly. I've been working for a long time." With that, Dustless's eyelids twitched. "You wanted to sleep. I won't let you off for looking down on others." Libel gritted her teeth in anger. She looked like she was about to explode. How did Dustless look like he was having a match? That sloppy look was obviously perfunctory. It was as if his opponent was a newbie who had just joined. It was a silent humiliation. Dustless was unmoved. He left with Libel and headed to the sparsely populated field. After a few minutes of walking, the few of them arrived at an open field. "You win if you can make me step back," Libel said proudly. Hearing that, Dustless smiled and retorted, "You win if you can touch my body." Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Libel's eyes shot out a cold light. Large amounts of flames erupted from her body and attacked Dustless like raindrops. How boring. Seeing that, Dustless put his hands in his pockets. After a sigh, he raised his right leg lazily. Light flickered. The oppressive golden light was extremely dazzling. Everyone closed their eyes, not daring to look at that sharp light. Lightspeed kick. A straight beam of cold light shot out and disappeared in the blink of an eye like a shooting star. Boom boom boom. Violent explosions erupted. The flames that Libel used were like drizzle. The aftershock of the lightspeed kick's explosion vaporized them. Not only that, the field that Dustless and Libel used for their match was also pierced through. "You bastard." Riaz was furious. Not only Libel, even she was caught off guard and ate a mouthful of dirt. She glared at Dustless fiercely. "Sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. It's really hard to control one's strength. I've already suppressed the power of the lightspeed kick to the limit." Who knew that it would cause this kind of trouble? Dustless had an innocent look on his face as if he had been wronged. Chapter 1274. Hearing Dustless's honest ridicule, everyone was petrified. They all looked down at the charred ground as if their souls had been sucked out. That charred pit was like looking at the sun up close. Their glasses were stinging. "Oh, Miss Label, you've already lost. Now, please perform the jump and come over here to massage my waist and legs. Really, these few days have been very tiring." Dustless sighed with emotion as he continued to order Libel. He gave off the feeling of a petty person intoxicated by success. You're dreaming. I haven't lost yet." Label gritted her teeth and stood up. She had originally planned to admit defeat, but Dustless's smiling face deeply provoked her. Especially when he mentioned "massage my waist and legs," Label stood up as if she had been electrocuted. She could not accept such a cruel reality. Absolutely not. Becoming Dustless's slave meant that she had to agree to all sorts of things. How could she, as the eldest daughter of the Phoenix family, put her face? She could not compromise. "You still intend to resist?" Seeing the madness in Label's eyes, Dustless could not help but shake his head. It was not that he looked down on Label, but the gap between them was just too big. No matter how hard the little chick worked, no matter how diligently she studied, she could not compare to an eagle soaring in the sky. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At this moment, a gust of cold wind suddenly blew. Label suddenly felt chilly. You bastard, you're doing this on purpose. Labelle was stunned. She subconsciously looked at her body and realized that her white wrists were already exposed to the air. This is just a warning. If you continue to fight with me, perhaps all your clothes will be burned off. Dustless chuckled. His words contained an undisguised threat. Humph, I won't give up even then. Labelle was still stubbornly unwilling to give up. The magic power that had been stagnant in her body once again increased tremendously. It erupted ferociously without end. The flames on her body also became more and more enchanting. Looks like it's not bad. Dustless rubbed his chin with interest. A golden light suddenly appeared on his fingertips. He glanced at Labelle and then shot out with all his might. Lasers. The unstoppable beam of light shot out and penetrated Labelle's body without any resistance. This kind of attack is useless. I was just careless and got hit by you. A thumb-sized crack appeared where Labelle's wound had been, thanks to Dustless's attack. However, Labelle was not affected at all. Her wounds began to heal slowly in the next second. The phoenix family has the body of the immortal bird. At the same time, they also have their special characteristics, immortality. No matter what kind of attack they receive, they will regenerate immediately. Their blood can make them immortal, and their tears can heal all injuries. Rhea stood up and explained, her tone carrying a hint of admiration. It sounds very powerful. Dustless rubbed his chin. Although he said so, his expression was frivolous. It was obvious that he deliberately said it to satisfy the vanity of this girl who thought highly of herself. Since you know how strong we are, then surrender quickly. Labelle's tone was incomparably arrogant, revealing a sense of superiority. You want me to surrender? Hearing that, Dustless could not help but laugh. His body suddenly erupted with a unique aura. Those who were affected by it all had a drastic change in expression. Boom boom boom. The extremely oppressive aura soared into the sky, unstoppable. Labelle, who was intimidated by the aura, immediately panicked. Her calm eyes changed from the calmness from before to extreme fear. She was shocked to find that there was an extremely domineering aura covering her body. With just a will or a casual sneeze, she would be killed instantly. Unable to take it anymore, Labelle almost fainted from suffocation. Plop. After holding on for a few seconds, Labelle finally collapsed to the ground. Her eyes lost focus, and the gaze she looked at Dustless with was replaced by fear. This guy must be the unknown mysterious demon king who has regained his youth. Suddenly, such a ridiculous thought appeared in Labelle's mind. Although it was a little unrealistic, Labelle was sure that Dustless was the reincarnation of some ancient bigshot. Otherwise, how could he be so powerful? Judging from his appearance, he was only a young man of 17 or 18 years old. Miss Labelle, are you going to carry out the agreement now? Dustless said lazily and frivolously. He was not afraid of her rejection and said threateningly, Of course, if you still don't agree to it, I don't care. However, your family might be in for a bad time. Do you have the demeanor of a powerhouse? Labelle was extremely furious. Her nose was crooked from anger. Dustless was an unparalleled powerhouse, yet he did not have the slightest bit of demeanor or magnanimity. He actually dared to be angry with a teenage girl. Of course not. Dustless shrugged and replied frankly, I don't care about that kind of thing. In short, I know that I have a little maid called Labelle Phoenix in the future. I won't restrict your actions and you can run away if you want. There's a saying in my hometown, the monk can run away but the temple can't. If you're not afraid of my revenge on the Phoenix family, you can try to run away. After saying that, Dustless leisurely left. Although Labelle's personality was a little arrogant and seemed to be very willful, she could definitely tell the danger of such a thing. If she ran away or rejected Dustless's conditions, the Phoenix family would suffer his revenge. Chapter 1275. Labelle Phoenix was trembling with anger. She dared not voice her anger and could only endure it silently. Phew. This farce ends here. Let's disperse. Rhea waved her hand and spoke with the authority of a superior. Junai, you wouldn't mind having a servant in the house, would you? Dustless walked up to Junai lazily while holding Labelle's little hand. Shouldn't you be thanking me for having a little maid to clean your room in the future? Junai squirmed when she heard this. She glanced at Dustless with a conflicted expression. Then she said to Labelle, If you really want to come, you'll have a place to stay. I'll go home and clean up a clean room for you. With that, Junai skipped away happily. Don't think that I'll let you go just because Junai said that, my cute spoils of war. Dustless pinched Labelle's smooth cheeks. The latter glanced at him and tried her best to avoid him. If you avoid the responsibility of being a maid, I'll take my revenge on your family. That sentence pulled Labelle back. Not only that, she even approached Dustless of her own accord. She put on a smile that was uglier than a bitter one. She was afraid that this great devil king would come to the underworld and cause trouble for the Phoenix family. An ordinary devil king would definitely not do that. However, it was a different story if the target was Dustless. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, it was night. Labelle followed Dustless home. Xuanhuan tidied up Labelle's room considerately. The facilities were complete. She did not treat her like a maid but more like a friend. Creak. The door was pushed open softly. Dustless and Labelle stepped in. Dustless looked around. He did not see Xuanhuan anywhere. There were only steaming dishes on the table. Perhaps Xuanhuan had something to do and had left. Dustless, you, shut up. I told you before that you're not allowed to call me by my name. Call me master, understand? Looks like if I don't punish you accordingly, you'll never be able to change this bad habit of yours. Dustless said unhappily with a straight face, but in his heart he was thinking about how to punish Labelle. Forget it, I won't make things difficult for you. Go and get me a bottle of hot water. Help me wash my feet. You'd better hurry before I change my mind. If I change my mind, I can deny it at any time. Countless veins appeared on Labelle's forehead when she heard that. As the eldest daughter of the Phoenix family, it had always been others who did their best to help her wash her feet. When had she ever helped others? Especially the person he hated the most. You don't plan to do it? Looks like you're going to violate the previous agreement again. Alright, I'll go to the underworld to look for. I promise you. Before Dustless could finish his sentence, Labelle had no choice but to agree. It's just washing my feet. It's no big deal. Labelle comforted herself nervously, feeling lost about the future. Chapter 1276. When he woke up from his dream, he was shocked to find that he was still on the same sofa as yesterday. Hey. Are you kidding me? You're my maid, how can you leave your master on the sofa? What if I catch a cold? That's a big problem. Dustless, who was wearing a simple shirt, protested to Labelle, who was busying herself. The key is that you don't have a cold or a fever. Labelle had a pitiful look on her face as she ignored Dustless's protest and continued to prepare breakfast. TSK. This outfit is not bad. You didn't buy it on purpose to rope me in, did you? Dustless looked at Labelle's new pajamas with a satisfied look on his face. Don't overthink it, this is Xuanhuan's. Labelle's face turned red as if she noticed Dustless's invasive gaze. Everything happened so suddenly that she became Dustless's maid without any preparation. She was even brought into the house by Xuanhuan without bringing any facilities with her. Everything she used was Xuanhuan's. Xuanhuan's? She does have such a heavy taste. Dustless suddenly realized that Labelle's pajamas were almost transparent. It was completely black with obvious lace at the cuffs. As Labelle moved, her pale skin could be vaguely seen. Era. Is it really okay for you to talk about me like this? How am I a heavy taste? Dustless, tell me about it. A pungent fragrance came from behind. Dustless turned around and saw Xuanhuan hugging his head with a smile. She rubbed his head and asked jokingly, how did it feel yesterday? I bet you had a good time with Miss Labelle. Good time? Dustless shook his head when he heard that. He was so tired yesterday that he did not even manage to touch her before he fell asleep, let alone have a good time. Looks like it's not bad. After putting on his slippers, Dustless glanced at the dazzling array of food on the table. Dustless nodded inwardly. Today's breakfast was much more sumptuous than usual. Of course, the food you've been eating in the past was too monotonous. It's necessary to add the right amount of food, Labelle said as if it was a matter of course. Dustless turned around and left. He hadn't washed his face and brushed his teeth. If he wasted any more time, he might be late again. The third year of Chariot King Academy. You finally arrived earlier than me today? What a miracle. Riaz, who had just stepped into the classroom, was shocked. It was her first time seeing Dustless arrive before her. Ahem. There's no need to be so surprised. Dustless waved at Riaz awkwardly, ignoring the jealous eyes of the other men around him as he pulled Riaz to the side to sit down. Who asked them to be desk mates? By the way, I have something to tell you. Before Dustless could say anything, Riaz said in a serious tone, Labelle's status is not ordinary. You forced her to be a maid and that has attracted a lot of attention? So fast? Don't tell me someone is spreading the news on purpose? F*ck, there's a mole. Dustless was speechless. It was just yesterday's news, and he instinctively suspected that someone was spreading the news on purpose. Riaz was shocked by Dustless's sudden action. After she recovered, she explained, "Labelle is the eldest daughter of the Phoenix family. Her status is noble, and it's only a matter of time before someone finds out. What we need to worry about is not this but the next problem." The next problem? There's no such thing as a problem in my life. Any problem that gives me a headache is a small matter that I can easily solve. Dustless said nonchalantly as he rested his head on the table, looking like he was about to fall asleep again. "Bastard, you better wake up." Riaz did not know whether to laugh or cry. Her head hurt, and she could not help but think of Gilifia's words that Dustless always said. "You're even harder to please than the Demon King." Riaz could not help but sigh. Looking at Dustless now, she suddenly felt that this sentence was too apt to describe him. "Don't tell me it's Labelle's family? If they want to take her away, they can try. I don't care." Dustless acted like he was unmoved by force or persuasion. He just smiled at the so-called Phoenix family and did not take it to heart. He ignored it like a joke. "It's not the Phoenix family. Your high profile has attracted the attention of the underworld, and I have to tell you seriously that the person who is looking for trouble this time is in the Horse King Academy. It's our student council president, xianxia." Riaz's words were shocking. Dustless also made a rare expression of surprise. He rubbed his chin and said, "Student council president? I've never paid attention to her, but I heard that her sister is one of the Demon Kings like your brother. Interesting." "Interesting?" Hearing that, Riaz's face darkened. If this matter was not handled properly, they might offend a Demon King, and the severe consequences were no joke. "But speaking of which, I need to find out how I offended the student council president, who is xianxia." Dustless looked like a curious baby, expressing that he really did not understand. He was not afraid of enemies, but being made a scapegoat for no reason, who would not be happy about it? It's hard not to notice. You destroyed the school field with a kick and turned Labelle into a maid. If I were the student council president, I would also pay attention to you. You have only yourself to blame. Chapter 1277. Dustless smiled at Riaz's sarcasm. He was more or less interested in Ji Chutsang and that devil sister. "Then why are they looking for me?" "Riaz, I'm your future husband. You won't just watch me get caught, right?" Dustless said with a tone that said, "If anything happens to me, you should come and protect me." Hearing that, Riaz's delicate face flashed with awkwardness. Her watery eyes looked around, and after making sure that no one heard them, she finally quieted down. "In public, don't say that we're engaged," Riaz said sternly, but Dustless did not seem to mind. "Sure, but don't talk to me about a duel. I won't duel with you." Riaz shook her head like a wavy ghost. Without even thinking, she rejected Dustless's condition. Labelle was a good example. "Catch you? That's not going to happen. Of course, I won't leave you alone." Riaz gave him a comforting look, but deep in her eyes, there was a hint of schadenfreude. She actually hoped that Dustless and Ji Chutsang would have a conflict. "They'll come and invite me after school, right?" Dustless suddenly asked. "Invite you?" Hearing that, Riaz's face darkened. She said unhappily, "You want her, the president of the student council, to invite you? Are you dreaming?" "That's really disappointing." Wu Qin muttered disappointedly. Then he didn't care anymore and started to sleep as usual. This time he fell asleep. Ding ding ding, when it was close to noon the school bell rang. Riaz pushed Dustless who was snoring. "Get up, let go of me." Riaz screamed unexpectedly. Caught off guard, Wu Qin grabbed her hand and placed it on top of her head like a pillow. "This feeling. TSK not bad." Dustless closed his eyes and mumbled in his sleep, his face full of comfort. "Hey, what kind of person is this guy?" Riaz sighed as she stared at Dustless's sleeping face. His skin was smoother and fairer than a woman's, and Riaz could not help but pinch it. "Very bouncy," Riaz said in surprise. She couldn't help but increase the force. "You've got guts. You dare to pinch my face?" Dustless suddenly opened his eyes and stared at Riaz with a half-smile. His shifty eyes darted around, and while Riaz was distracted, he suddenly got up and pulled her into his arms. "Even if you want to cause trouble, you have to look at the situation first. This is a teacher." Li Yasi panted and said. She was hugged tightly by Wu Qin. Her whole body was soft and she did not have any strength to move. Riaz even noticed that a pair of small hands had invaded her body when she was not paying attention, teasing her legs. It was as cunning as Dustless himself, deliberately teasing her. So you're saying that we can cause trouble in other situations? Dustless ignored Riaz's protest. His face was attacked and it was a huge loss. If he did not get it back, it would be a huge loss. You despicable guy, you know that's not what I meant. Riaz scolded. Chapter 1278. Chokang's face twitched violently as her magic went berserk. As the Demon King's sister, everyone who saw her would be fearful of her, or at least respectful. Now Dustless actually said, "How can you be so thick-skinned? How will she have a foothold in the future?" However, Chokang's tragedy was that just as she was about to finish her sentence, it was interrupted by Dustless's sudden change of events. "What about me? Eavesdropping and peeking at others flirting, don't you think it's very rude? Before you ask others, please apologize first, or I will refuse to answer all of your questions, Miss Chokang." Dustless showed another side of him other than his powerful strength. His poisonous mouth was still unforgiving as he said, "Of course, if you are the kind of person with no manners and vulgar taste, it's fine if you don't apologize. Similarly, I will not answer any of your questions." Dustless's words were like a sharp tooth that pierced deeply into Chokang's heart. "Don't push your luck." The usually wise Chokang's tone had a rare touch of anger. After she glared at Silver, the accumulated anger in her heart also disappeared. "I'm sorry just now." Recalling Dustless and Riaz's intimate actions just now, Chokang's little face turned red, and a flash of embarrassment flashed across her face. She said, "I'm really sorry for interrupting the two of you. Please don't forgive me." The girl's actions were elegant and calm and generous. Her expression was carefree as if nothing had happened just now. This girl. I wanted to deliberately make things difficult for her, but I didn't expect her to really apologize. I couldn't tell that this little girl is quite magnanimous. Dustless glanced at Chokang and couldn't help but treat her differently. "Miss Chokang, please speak your mind." With a smile, Dustless hugged Riaz in his arms and played with her. He also asked Chokang a question, her half-hearted attitude making him angry. "What does this girl do? Although she's not bad-looking and seems to be quite strong, is her charm that great? What's with Riaz's uncontrollable look?" Chikusa Tsangna frowned. Faced with Dustless's teasing, Chikusa Tsangna could see that Riaz was secretly delighted despite her disgusted expression. After all, she and Riaz had been close friends for many years. "Since that's the case, I'll be frank." Ignoring Riaz's coquettish voice, he asked Tsangna, "Please give me a reasonable explanation for your background. I let you in because..." At this point, Jichu Tsangna paused and glanced at Riaz. This was all because of her, but now this B*TCH was flirting in someone else's arms. Outrageous. "I don't have any background. I'm just an ordinary solo cultivator. There's no need for me to be bothered by such trivial matters." Dustless answered frankly without any falsehood. However, these words infuriated Jichu Tsang. How could you be so strong without a single faction backing you? Forget it. Jichu Tsangna sighed and stopped dwelling on this issue. She thought of Labelle and said sternly, "You must release Miss Labelle immediately. Letting her be your maid may hurt the dignity of the various families in the underworld. It may even lead to war." "Release her?" Hearing this, Dustless's lips curled into a mocking smile. He teased, "What if I don't release her?" "Don't push your luck. Figure out what kind of person is standing in front of you." Seeing how arrogant Dustless was, Jichu Tsangna's family could not sit still. They had tolerated Dustless enough, but they did not expect this guy to be so arrogant. He did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. Perhaps in the eyes of this group of people, the so-called Demon King is invincible. How sad, Dustless laughed inwardly. Not to mention a mere Demon King, even if 10 Demon Kings were stacked together, he would not be afraid. They were not existences of the same dimension at all. "I don't care who you are. Remember this clearly. I hate it when people threaten me. I will not release Labelle. I will take her as my maid. If you want to use any means, feel free to do as you please." With that, Dustless closed his eyes and acted like a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water. He looked very shameless. It's rare to see someone as insensible as you. Jichu Tsangna was not as irritable as the other family members. She was calm and did not beat around the bush. She went straight to the point. "Miss Labelle is the eldest daughter of the Phoenix family. It's not appropriate for you to forcefully transfer her to be your maid. It's very likely that it will lead to unnecessary turmoil in the underworld." Jichu Tsangna's tone was wise and full of philosophy. Everyone could not help but agree with her. Everything she said was reasonable. However, Dustless was a lump of iron. He did not listen to her at all. As expected of Tsang. Her methods are indeed extraordinary. She's obviously trying to tell Dustless that taking Labelle as his maid is going against the entire underworld. She's using her power to oppress him and cast herself in a position where she is not involved. She's playing it very well. Riaz was genuinely impressed. Tsang's cleverness was well known. At the same time, Riaz looked at Dustless with a serious expression. She was looking forward to his answer. Facing the entire underworld, anyone would be afraid and choose to compromise. How boring. Shrimp soldiers, crab generals, whatever. Come at me all at once. I don't have to go door to door to find her. Even if you don't find it tiring, I do. Dustless stretched his body and gave an answer that no one expected. Although we're in the same world, I'm fundamentally different from you. I'll only repeat this for the last time. I'm as high as the sky is. I'm as strong as God is. Looking straight at her, he saw that her clothes were all torn apart. Tsk. Brother Hyodo's clothes disintegration is indeed a good skill. Dustless smiled evilly. At the same time he comforted her. It's all right, Miss Shinra. You don't have to mind it. I promise I won't peek at you. However, is the topic of our competition about taking off clothes? Is the one who takes it off faster the winner? If so, I'm going to take off my clothes too. After saying that, Dustless ignored everyone's stunned gaze and started to take off his clothes. Dustless had obviously undergone special training. In just a blink of an eye, Dustless was only left with his underwear. Stop it right now! Shinra Chuanji exclaimed. She was shocked by Dustless's actions. Seeing that Dustless was about to take off his last piece of clothing, they would really be naked. Isn't this a stripping competition? Wu Qin pretended to be at a loss and said, making everyone speechless. Shinra Chuanji glared fiercely at Dustless. She was so frustrated that she almost vomited blood. Although she did not have any evidence to prove that Dustless was the culprit in this big room, who else would do such a thing other than Dustless? It was obvious who the culprit was. Then, are you still going to compete? Dustless shrugged and asked in a bored manner. He was hoping to have some fun with this group of people, but he did not expect that he would almost collapse after just a short while. Their ability to resist attacks was a little too weak. Competition? Hearing that, the faces of Xuanhuan and the others darkened. They were filled with fear. If Dustless was a normal person and could compete fairly, they would not mind at all. However, Shinra Chuanji's tragic experience made everyone suspicious. If they participated in this so-called competition, they might end up like Shinra Chuanji. I have no interest in competing with you. You have to give me Miss Labelle today or I will take other measures. Don't doubt my words. If you think I'm joking, you will not be able to bear the consequences. Xuanhuan said straightforwardly to Dustless. She suddenly realized that there was no need for her to talk nonsense. Her sister was one of the 4 great demon kings. Was there a need for her to be afraid of an unknown clown? Are you planning to use force? Wu Qin said in surprise. At the same time, her face outlined a faint smile of a successful plot. If she could take advantage of this opportunity to take down Ji Chu Tsang, then her sister would definitely come out. To be honest, Wu Qin was full of expectations for the demon king. Chapter 1280. In this world, creatures like demon kings were almost deified. They were the synonym of omnipotence, as though they could easily deal with anything in this world. Dustless, who did not believe in superstition, wanted to experience the might of the demon king myself. Aren't you relying on your demon king sister? Even she is going to be in trouble this time. Compared to the worried Riaz, Dustless was laughing happily. I almost clapped my hands and laughed. The two of you. It's not appropriate for you to ignore me like this. A magic circle similar to the one Labelle used before appeared. Then a frivolous, arrogant, and condescending voice sounded from it. This guy is... Riaz's face darkened. The smell of flames assaulted her face. The surrounding temperature immediately rose and a destructive aura filled the air. I don't need you to tell me who he is. Looking at his retarded hairstyle and his ability that is infinitely similar to Labelle's, I know that he is Labelle's brother. Am I right, Riaz? Dustless waved his hand and told Riaz that he already knew who this idiot with blonde hair who looked like a turkey was, even without the introduction. Labelle's brother was no doubt, Rizel Phoenix. What did you call me? Within the flames, a dissatisfied voice sounded. It was filled with endless anger mixed with killing intent and hatred. Riaz. You didn't hesitate to offend the Phoenix family just for this perverted guy? Looking at Riaz with dissatisfaction, Rizel Phoenix stepped out of the flames. You said I'm perverted? Hearing that, Dustless's face was filled with ridicule. This playboy called him perverted, but he was the perverted demon. That was removed by my brother. If you want to find trouble, please go find Sazek's Jamonli. Riaz was unmoved. She purposely leaned into Dustless's arms with a blissful expression. Quite naughty. Seeing that, Dustless smiled. He knew that Riaz was purposely trying to piss off the firebird. Dustless did not hold back. He immediately pulled Riaz into his arms. In front of Kangna, Rizel Phoenix and the others, he lightly tapped her forehead. You too. Riaz and Dustless's intimacy, regardless of the occasion, immediately triggered the anger in Rizel Phoenix's heart. This was a blatant slap to his face. Originally he was the one who pulled Riaz into his arms, but now it was Dustless. Every time he thought of this, Rizel would feel aggrieved. Because he was the young master of the Phoenix family, everyone was afraid of him. Even if he were to be cuckolded, he would be the one to be cuckolded. This was the first time he experienced this feeling that he had never felt before. His heart was broken. I want to participate in this competition too. Clenching his fist, Rizel Phoenix vowed, I still want to win back my sister. Does this idiot know how to speak after suffering a concussion? What does he take her sister for? Is she a commodity? Riaz was speechless. She could not help but rejoice for her future. Dustless's personality was a little weird, but at least he was reliable. After all, Riaz's strength was what she relied on. Even if he looked a little bad and a little too much, it was not a big problem. You don't have the chance to participate. Glancing at Rizel Phoenix, Dustless solemnly declared. You think I don't have the chance just because you say so? You think you're the judge? Rizel Phoenix sneered. He completely ignored Dustless's words and turned a deaf ear to them. Ah, Dustless looked at Phoenix in surprise and said without hiding anything, how smart. I'm the judge. Now I say you can go home and sleep. What did you say? Hearing that, Rizel Phoenix was enraged. His hair stood on end. Even the Demon King was not as arrogant as this guy. He actually dared to tell him to go home and sleep. This was ridiculous. Don't you understand? Because you're going to be eliminated now. Dustless calmly raised his leg and gathered a majestic flash. The extremely dazzling light made people instinctively take a step back. Lightspeed kick. A straight ray shot out. It was so fast that no living creature could see it. Just like its name, Lightspeed kick. Boom boom boom. The ground where Rizel Phoenix was standing was mercilessly kicked by Dustless. A deep scorched pit instantly appeared. The violent energy fluctuations caused the entire Cult King Academy to tremble. This guy is really a monster. He used the same move to crush LaBelle's confidence last time. This time it's Rizel again. If I'm not wrong, thinking of that, Riaz could not help but look at the dazed Chiqua Kangna. If she was not wrong, she would be the next unlucky one. The black pit on the ground was a shocking sight. It lingered in everyone's mind. Chiqua Kangna and the others were especially heavy. They had wanted to take Dustless for themselves. Now that the other party had displayed his super strong combat power, Chiqua Kangna and her family's impassioned hearts felt like they had been splashed with a bucket of cold water. Such a powerful monster was not something they could fight against. Hee, you want to defeat me? Stop dreaming. Do you think an ordinary person like you can understand the physique that the Phoenix family is proud of? It's impossible for you to defeat me with this kind of ordinary physical attack. Riser's shattered body was instantly repaired. He laughed arrogantly. As the saying goes, extreme joy begets sorrow. Before he could be arrogant for long, Rizel's laughter stopped. It was a tragedy in the blink of an eye. Chapter 1281. Originally, when Rizel was about to launch an attack to fight back, he felt that his body was not listening to him and was suppressed by some mysterious force. His knees could not be straightened, his face was stuck to the ground, and he looked up at Dustless sullenly. Bastard, this is your doing, right? Rizel Phoenix roared at Dustless, who was walking towards him. His mouth was wide open as if he wanted to swallow Dustless alive. It was extremely uncomfortable and he felt that his head was about to explode. You are not convinced? Looking down at Rizel, whose eyes were red, Dustless glanced at him indifferently. Then he immediately lost interest. It was really boring to fight such trash. Let me go if you have the guts, I will definitely kill you. Rizel shouted stubbornly, and his furious tone was as if he wanted to die together with Dustless. Hearing this, a cold light flashed in Dustless's eyes, and he lifted his right foot again, and then ruthlessly stomped down. Boom boom boom. A hole appeared on the ground. Rissel's head was stomped into the ground by Dustless. He was like a bug that was being trampled on. The gap between us is like the gap between humans and God. Receiving a fatal blow, Rissel's teeth were all broken. Bastard, put down Sir Rissel. Rissel's blessings glared at Dustless as they charged at him one after another. It's really surprising that a trash like you has so many fans. Hee, but it's a pity. Dustless said regretfully, and his eyes became colder. Without even moving his hands, Haushikuhaki directly erupted. Boom boom boom. Monstrous majesty erupted from Dustless's body, as if he was the reincarnation of a god, and the whole world was affected, especially the sky above Horse King Academy. It was shocking, and it turned into a bottomless black hole as if the sky had collapsed. Plop. Rissel's followers fell to the ground, foaming at the mouth, and without even moving their hands, they were all put down by Dustless. Let go of my brother. At this moment, an anxious and clear voice was heard, followed by a series of messy footsteps. Dustless sensed that the voice was somewhat familiar. He turned around and saw that it was Labelle, who was dressed as a maid. She was Rissel's younger sister. Master, please be magnanimous and let him go. Knowing how terrifying Dustless was, Labelle put on a submissive expression and spoke in an ingratiating tone. Labelle? Why did you become like this? Rissel's eyes widened as he looked at Labelle in disbelief. She was dressed in maid attire and had a fawning expression on her face. Let him go? Of course, no problem. Hearing this, Dustless completely retracted his aura, retracting his foot from Rissel's head. Dustless stared at Labelle for a while, then lifted her jade-white chin and blew a breath of hot air into her ear. But your brother wants to kill me. This kind of person is too dangerous. After saying that, Dustless's chakra vibrated, and his remaining clothes were torn apart. He looked at Labelle, who was kneeling on the ground, mockingly. Yes, master. I understand what you mean. Labelle moved closer to Dustless and obediently nodded. Gulp, gulp. Dustless narrowed his eyes and carefully savored the softness of Labelle's mouth. He could not help but moan in pleasure. A pair of adulterous couple. Ji-Chi-Chang cursed. His tightly clenched fists had dense bulging veins. Dustless was actually doing such a shameless thing with Labelle in broad daylight. Especially when Labelle's face was filled with curiosity and had the expression of a child eating a lollipop. Ji-Chi-Chang was in an uproar. Dustless patted Labelle's head and gently said, Take it slow. There's no need to rush, Labelle. Then he looked at Ji-Chi-Chang and suddenly mocked, You think Labelle is very cheap? You don't have the qualifications to criticize others. At the very least, she doesn't need to rely on others to survive. She is self-reliant. I like this kind of girl more. Really? Master? Labelle's heart was filled with warmth. Dustless's image in her heart was instantly elevated. Of course. Dustless gave her a look of praise and appreciation. Hearing this, Labelle was even more touched. Her actions became even more attentive. If Labelle had some resistance towards Dustless before, then she was completely loyal now. Originally, Dustless still felt some pain. This was also the reason why Labelle's technique was not very good. After all, it was her first time. However, when Labelle heard Dustless's words just now, she was extremely touched. The barrier in her heart completely disappeared. Motivated and moved, Labelle worked even harder. As expected, women are meant to be coaxed and tricked. Dustless said proudly. It was also at this moment that a torrential magic fluctuation descended from the sky. Dustless subconsciously used a move to counterattack. Binding Path 81 Sky Shattering. A transparent defensive barrier appeared. It was as thin as a cicada's wing and crystal clear. What's the use of this trash? Ji-Chi-Chang, who had launched the surprise attack, said disdainfully. Just don't cry when you lose. Dustless said with a faint smile. He was extremely bored as he rubbed Labelle's golden hair. At this moment she had completely entered a state of selflessness. She turned a deaf ear to everything around her and worked hard for Dustless. Idiot, you've been poisoned quite badly. Rias sighed. She knew that a young girl in her prime had become Dustless's slave. Although she felt that it was a pity, Rias did not mind. She knew that this was only the first. There would be more people falling in the future. With invincible strength, a handsome face, and a mouth that specialized in tricking women, Rias knew that her supernatural research department would sooner or later become Dustless's harem headquarters. Boom. Boom. At the same time, the majestic magic crashed into the barrier. The originally crystal-clear defensive barrier was instantly corroded and formed a layer of ice. As expected, you can't even withstand a single blow. Ji Chutsang curled his lips and shouted, "Break for me." Ka, ka, ka. The ice did indeed break. However, what Ji Chichang could not believe was that Dustless's barrier was still intact. Chapter 1283. Chokengna was shocked. She did not expect the barrier that was only as thick as a piece of paper to be so hard. The chances of it being shaken were 0. Her Weibo could not do it at all. "Miss Chokengna, you were the one who attacked me this time," Dustless said with a playful smile. His words sent Chokengna straight to hell. She felt cold all over and lost her most basic senses. She was hit hard. Her full-strength attack could not even break through a barrier in front of Dustless, let alone defeat him. Now it's my turn to fight back. Staring at Chokengna's naked body, Dustless was not in a hurry to make a move. He seemed to be observing where to attack. Just scare her a little. There's no need to do it for real. Rias pulled on Dustless's clothes, hoping that Dustless would dismiss the idea in his mind. "Of course, I'm just scaring her. I'll stop when it's time to stop her from finding trouble with me in the future. You don't have to worry about this, Rias." Dustless rolled his eyes. "Stop when it's time?" Hearing that, Rias rolled her eyes at Dustless. She could not help but complain in her mind, "Who knows what you mean when it's time to stop when it's time?" Then, staring at Chokengna's body for a few seconds, Dustless teased, "As punishment for attacking me, I'll first strip off your clothes and tie you up for 3 days. Are you crazy?" Chokengna panicked. She did not even dare to pick up her glasses when they fell to the ground. It was not that she was timid, but the moment Chokengna picked up her glasses, she would be tied up naked for 3 days. She did not dare to doubt Dustless's strength at all. This soft girl looks strong on the outside, but she's actually very weak on the inside. Seeing this, Wu Qin smiled, and the corner of his mouth swept up a wicked smile. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Dustless turned into a flash of light and attacked. He appeared behind Chokengna without any warning and tore her clothes apart. Crack crack crack. Her smooth and delicate skin was exposed to everyone's eyes. Fortunately, there were no other men here, only Dustless was able to feast his eyes on her. An earth-shattering scream resounded through the entire sky. Chi Dukong was on the verge of collapse and his face was lifeless. "I won't let you go, never." Ji Chuatsang gritted his teeth and said. His teeth creaked as if they were about to break. "Is this what you meant by not going overboard? If you knew this would happen, you might as well have killed her. Sai Tsang will also hate me now. Really, why is this troublesome person my fiancé?" She knew that Tsang Na's elder sister, Leviathan, was a Siscon, and this meant that they had offended a demon king. Bastard, who the hell hurt my cute little sister? In the depths of the clouds, a thunderclap exploded. The entire world was silent, and not a single sound could be heard. No one dared to defy that supreme voice. "Oh, I'm sorry, I only played a little game with your sister." Dustless touched his nose embarrassedly and said, "She attacked me. I just want to strip her naked for 3 days. There shouldn't be any problem. After all, it's your sister who attacked me. It shouldn't be too much to punish her a little. Even if you're a demon, you have to be reasonable." Chapter 1284. Is this just a small punishment? Strip the Demon King's sister naked for 3 days, even if you have 10 heads, it won't be enough to appease Seraphil Sidi's anger. Rias said angrily, her ferocious eyes wanting to bite Dustless to death. This guy is not afraid of the Demon King, he's obviously deliberately angering Seraphil. "Huh. You want to strip my lovely sister naked for 3 days? That's a good idea. Are all young people nowadays so playful?" A girl with a plump figure descended from the sky, the breeze blowing gently, her twin ponytails swaying back and forth, coupled with her white face, was particularly cute. The girl, like Asana, has purple dreamy eyes, white teeth, and a proud cleavage that almost bursts out of her clothes. Dustless, who has become more and more shameless, immediately opened the Tensigan and used that perverted insight to spy on Seraphil. In the near future, I'll have a sister-in-law duo like Gilifia and Lise. Who would have thought that the heavens would be in such a hurry to kiss my ass and send me another sister-in-law duo? TSK. Since the heavens are trying so hard to kiss my ass, then this world won't be destroyed. Dustless secretly decided to give up this world once. Whether it was the world of Naruto, One Piece, or the world of Shinigami, almost all of them were ruined by Dustless in the end. Great! Under the vision of the Tensigan, Seraphil was almost naked. Dustless saw it clearly. Dustless can't find the slightest fault. The only flaw is that the girl's face is full of violent murderous intent at the moment. You want me to reason with you? Young man, are you kidding? Are you not awake? Have you ever seen a reasonable demon king? Seraphil's face was full of arrogance. A demon king talking to a little pawn, this is Dustless's honor. And, you are definitely the most courageous human I have ever seen. Staring at Dustless with a wretched smile on his face, Seraphil sneered, since I arrived just now you have peeked at my wuxiong, tribe 10 times great Yuere, tribe 20 times and, speaking of this, Seraphil's face flashed with an unnatural blush and she subconsciously closed her legs. She stared at Dustless's right eye strangely. That magical eye seemed to be able to see through things. She felt that her most secret place was exposed to Dustless's eyes. He couldn't help but feel awkward. This kid looks pretty good. Staring at Dustless's face, Seraphil's beautiful eyes glowed. The young man's face was like a crown of jade. His 2 large eyes were like the stars in the sky, sparkling. His messy black hair was as black as ink, and his beautiful hair danced in the wind. Dustless's temperament was also extremely extraordinary, and he looked much more mature than his appearance. However, you actually dared to bully my sister. Even if you are Sazak's future brother-in-law, I won't let you off easily. Seraphil's lovely temperament changed drastically, and she suddenly exuded the demeanor of a ruler overlooking the world. It gave off a domineering feeling of supremacy over all living things. Buzz buzz buzz, everyone felt the absolute oppression. Their bodies were all bent, and their bodies trembled uncontrollably. They couldn't help but show fear and panic. Ah la la la, what's there to be afraid of about this little girl who looks like she's about to explode? This sentence instantly petrified everyone. Their gazes coincidentally turned to the source of the voice. Even if I'm handsome, you don't have to look at me like that. Dustless said embarrassedly, but there was a smug smile on his face. Obviously he did it on purpose. What did you call me? Seraphil's cheeks swelled up like a hydrogen balloon and turned red. Kid, say it again if you dare. That he, Riaz almost broke down. She suddenly felt that she was very unlucky to have such a terrible fiancé. Are your ears that bad? I'll repeat it for the last time. Respected and lovely Miss Devil King, I'm calling you a little girl. Hearing that, the entire scene was silent. Everyone was shocked by Dustless's words. Forcibly suppressing the rising waves in her heart that wanted to strangle Dustless, Seraphil asked again, you know that I'm the Devil King, and you still dare to call me a little girl? I do know that you're the Devil King, but so what? Dustless looked at her as if she was an idiot. Good kid, you've got guts. You wanted to strip Xianxia naked for 3 days? I'm going to strip you naked for 30 days. Seraphil said angrily. She felt like her lungs were about to explode. Is that so? What a coincidence. Dustless pursed his lips. Under everyone's gaze he said something shocking. I also want to strip you naked and just look at you naked. That's too boring. After stripping you naked, I'll treat you as a trophy and have a pleasant sex drive. I thought you were young and ignorant, but now it seems that you're a complete idiot. I'm afraid you don't even know how to spell the word death. You also don't understand what the Devil King means to this world. Seraphil shook her head, telling herself that there was no need to argue with a child. You're right. I really don't understand what the Devil King means to this world, but an extremely terrifying aura spread out from Dustless. He said expressionlessly, you'll soon understand what I mean to this world. As a higher-level life form, after going through the baptism of several worlds, his strength had already reached an unprecedented level. It was very suitable to use a Devil King to establish his dominance. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. With that, Dustless's body turned into a dazzling light and rushed out, arriving behind Seraphil at the speed of light. She was still in shock and disbelief, as if she had not realized how Dustless disappeared. You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.